All right, guys, welcome back to the Hunter-Based Podcast. What do Maverick Hunters do when they're not hunting Mavericks? They go back to the base, recharge, and shoot the shit. I'm your host of the most, Zeromaster, and tonight, with me, I have a returning guest. You know him as the man, the myth, the legend. He's crazy about Gundam. He's been blocked by wrestlers on Twitter. It's Oni Rokaku.
What the hell are you doing today?
What?
I said, how are you doing today? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, God, sorry. I had to get the mask off. How you doing?
Are you wearing your fucking mask right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was.
Oh. Mine's in with my other Halloween shit. But mine's from like part 9, so but it's not as cool. So Oni, it's been a while since you've last been on the podcast. Last time you were here was when we talked about the Broly movie.
Yeah, that was like shit. Good while now.
What have you been up to?
I've been stuff, actually been streaming some stuff now, building my Gunpla, getting everything ready on that, and trying to keep up with my sanity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I streamed last night, and you were very excited about a game that came out.
Yeah, I'm gonna stream either later tonight or tomorrow one. I don't know, before you stream.
Cool. But yeah, so Oni does streaming. He does sometimes videos. Most recently you've done the wrestling commentaries, right?
Yeah, it was something new I wanted to do, actually, to be honest, because rarely I've seen, there might have been like a few Twitch streamers doing it, but I just wanted to do it with like a good bit of few people, like Doom, Shell Snake, whoever I can get my hands on, and surprisingly, the wrestling commentaries have been boosting me up in views. Shocking.
Well, that's pretty good, though. Well, I mean, like, it's mostly what you're known for on other platforms like Twitter and stuff, right? So it's like, I'm surprised.
So, I'll do a video game maybe every once in a while, it'll boost up, but then when I do wrestling, it's just like, let's see what this fat ass has to say.
But tonight, we are not here to talk about wrestling or video games. Well, video games might come into it eventually. But the reason I had Oni on here is because we both have we share favorites of, among other things. We both like Tokusatsu. We both like, what was the other thing I was going to say? It doesn't matter. We both have a favorite horror franchise, and that's Friday the 13th, and that's what we're going to talk about for this Spoopyween month. And like, I couldn't really think of anybody else to discuss this franchise with other than you, because you and I basically know the same amount of knowledge for it. Well, you probably know more than I do, but like,
holy shit, I could probably go all night. But my knowledge might be a little waned nowadays, so I might get some stuff wrong. So,
but like, you're the only person I know who I can talk to about obscure facts about this franchise, just like weird shit.
Yeah.
So essentially, for tonight's podcast, what we're going to decide to do is we're going to talk about all the movies, up to I think the newest movie is the remake. Hold off. We'll get to that. We're going to talk about all the movies. We're going to talk about that includes Freddy vs. Jason, because I feel like has to be talked about.
And technically it counts.
And then we might talk about like the video game like that came out. I backed it on Kickstarter. Did you back it on Kickstarter?
No, I didn't, but I did buy it for my birthday. So
yeah, and we'll probably talk about our favorite like kills and stuff like that in the franchise. We're just going to gush about this franchise because, like originally I was thinking I was going to do like thoughts on videos for each movie, but I'm like, that's lame. I'd rather just do a big discussion and talk about it, just something special for Halloween.
Yeah, because we'd be here all day if we did that.
So without further ado, let's hop right into the first movie. What I want to say real quick is, like a lot of people debate if the first movie is considered a classic. I still consider it a classic just because of what it took to make. It was made on like a budget of like just over $500,000. It was made in like only a few weeks, and it kind of like, and it had some big some big names were in it, so that's where Sean Cunningham got his start. I know that the Tom Savini, who did stuff on Dawn of the Dead, did the effects for this one, and somewhere Wes Craven has involvement. It's not clear, but like this was kind of like, because he had just, I think Wes Craven did Last House on the Left, and then The Hills Have Eyes, and then eventually A Nightmare on Elm Street. But he was involved somehow with Friday the 13th, but it's not clear what. He never credits himself as being involved with it, but I know he did something. But it's a monumental film because it's the easiest way I can explain the first Friday the 13th is it's kind of like Reverse Psycho.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because like in Psycho, for those of you who don't know, the killer Norman Bates thinks he's his mother, or he's a split personality with his mother. In this movie, it's the exact opposite. Spoiler alert. The mother's the killer, but she is a split personality with Jason, her son, who drowned in the lake in the 50s. So for those of you who don't know what a slasher movie is, essentially just go around killing people in the woods. You don't have to have a knife. You don't have to have a sharp weapon. Hell, fucking Alien's considered a slasher, and that's a movie about an alien that goes around killing people. So, but this movie, like, the slasher genre existed with movies like Black Christmas, and what really popularized it was Halloween. But this movie, I think, like, was one of the first big ones since Halloween to like just explode the genre. After this, you started having movies like Prom Night and like Death Train and shit like that. So this movie was very iconic. It does have slow parts, but honestly, like, it's still, I can still put this movie on any time and still enjoy it. It's not scary though by any means today.
When I was little, no joke, when I was little, I was scared of them, but not to a point where I was like, I'll never watch them again. I was just like, oh, I want to watch this again because I'm a freaking masochist. Now, when I'm older, I'm just like, oh God, this is funny as hell. I'm weird, but it's just like, you compare horror then to horror now. Horror now is just like jump scare city. Like, for example, I could put on a horror video game right now on stream a horror video game, and all of a sudden it's like, boo, jump scare, pretty much Five Nights at Freddy's, and let's not do that.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
It's interesting you said you saw this as a kid, because I have a different perspective, because I didn't fully sit down and watch this movie or the rest of them in their entirety until they came out on DVD. My brother bought a DVD box set years ago. He actually ended up selling it, which he regrets now, but he bought it years ago, and I never checked the movies out, so I thought I would, and that was kind of my first exposure to it. Like, I always knew who Jason was, and but I always had the stereotype of, he's the guy with the chainsaw, even though there isn't a chainsaw until part 3, and he doesn't even use it. So,
no, he doesn't. He doesn't use a chainsaw until part 7, and I'm just jumping the gun a little bit on that one.
Yeah. But yeah. So we got different perspectives. You saw this movie when you were young, and I didn't see it until I was in college. So
yes, and when I saw it, it was like maybe the edited versions on TV, or you rent them at your video store with the VHSs, back then. God, I'm old.
Yeah. It's interesting because I saw this movie, I think, just around or outside of when my brother and I were binging VHSs, because it was around the time you could still go to a rental store and rent a VHS. Like, they were super cheap. So we'd rent. Oh yeah, definitely. We saw a bunch of movies like that. With movies like, we saw was Street Fighter. We saw a couple other movies. We unfortunately saw the Double Dragon movie that way. I fucking hate that movie. It's one of the worst movies made of all time. I hate it. But like, I think we started getting into older movies, and that's when he prompted him to buy this collection. And yeah, it's. I wish I had that DVD set. There's a Blu-ray set out now. I need to get my hands on, but
oh God, I need to get it. Oh, you mentioned the Blu-ray set. I need to do the same. Funny enough, I finally owned the entire franchise on DVD as back in 2005. It was technically a graduation/birthday present thanks to my mom. She knew how much I loved those movies, and we were trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out a way. Is like she wanted me to find my graduation/birthday present. She had multiple graduation presents for me that year. I was graduating high school. But I said something like, well, I would like to try and own the Friday the 13th movies if it's cheap enough. So we actually went down to the video store and see if there was a way to do it. And lo and behold, we special ordered parts 1 through 9 because I already had part 11. Well, part 11. That's why am I part 10 and Freddy versus Jason in my hands already, and I wanted to try and finish out the series, and I finally got my hands on them, and the first thing I did too, binge watched every part.
Yeah.
And I still do to this day, no matter what.
Unfortunately, because of that box set, we don't have it anymore. I can't watch the first 8 movies because that box set came with the first 8. I have the 9th movie, but I don't rewatch it that often because we'll get to this, but it's not very good. Jason X, I love. I know it's corny as shit, but I love it. So I own that, and then Freddy vs. Jason we have as well. So those, and the remake. I only have 4 of the movies right now because I don't have that box set anymore. That's why I want to get it again.
God, now you're making me want to look it up while we're doing this. I'm actually going to look it up on Amazon.
But going back to the first movie, what was so iconic about it is that it took this idea. What I think I really like about the first movie is it's mysterious on who the killer is, and every other film after that, you know it's Jason. Some of them have twists, but you pretty much know it's Jason. But in the first movie, you really don't know who the killer is, and you don't find out who the killer is until like the last part of the movie, like the last 20 minutes. And it's one of those things like that. That was a really great idea and I remember there was an interview with Betsy Palmer, where she said, she said to Sean Cunningham, the director, said, "You're kind of being unfair. You should put me in, the coffee shop or somewhere in the background at least." He's like, no, we'll keep them guessing. And that Sean Cunningham had the right idea because Betsy Palmer only worked for 10 days on that movie. So you only see her, what you see at the end of the movie, that's the only time in the movie she had worked. Of course, I'm jumping around a little bit, but we got to talk about a few of the things. Of course, these movies are casted with new actors or actors who maybe this is their first big break. This is like one of Kevin Bacon's first movies.
Oh God!
And now you can't get away from him. It's 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or 6 degrees, or whatever.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
His death, by the way, I love his death in this movie. That was one of the cooler deaths. He gets the arrow through the neck. That's really cool.
Funny enough. I'm actually praising Cinema Sins on this one because I watched their Everything Wrong with Friday the 13th, even though they're trying to parody it. Because they always have this like discount actor or actress,
Mm-hmm.
And because it's still funny and ironic to me is like discount Kevin Bacon. Wait, you're saying that is Kevin Bacon? Oh, discount Kevin Bacon. Got him when he was super cheap. Good job. That's the funniest part, and I'm actually going to Nightmare on this one because they got Johnny Depp for it too. So.
Yeah, because Nightmare got Johnny Depp, and like Kevin Bacon and Johnny Depp are 2 actors that like skyrocketed after this film, these films. So
Kevin Bacon had Footloose, and I could go on all day with Footloose. Yeah. I've seen that movie too. Good.
I should say we probably won't go too far into the cast of these movies, but I do want to talk about the main lead. I think it's Alice is her name for this one.
Yeah, Adrienne King.
Mm-hmm. I think she did a really good job in this film. Like, there's a couple of scenes, like the scene where they're making coffee. I know people complain about that a lot. Yeah, it's kind of a dumb scene, but I mean, the movie's only like an hour and a half. Like, it's a short film, so
you have to literally stretch it out. I'm talking stretch the sumbitch out.
You know what I always feel like? I think they did that because I remember like these movies, like as time went on, the MPAA got harsher and harsher and started cutting shit down because a lot of the kills that Tom Savini does, like the effects for, they're way longer than you see them in the movies. But the MPAA is like, nope, you got to cut this down so it doesn't look as gruesome. That's an X rating. So it sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's just stupid to me, and I can literally say that because back then, even the MPAA was just harsh on a lot of stuff. To be honest with you, I mean, I don't think Halloween had that same restrictions, and I could be totally wrong on that too. But there was movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that almost came close to an rated X.
Yeah.
And Friday the 13th, what Halloween did for the beginning of the slasher genre, Friday the 13th was like, well, fuck you. Let's see how far we can take this.
The interesting thing is with you comparing it to Halloween. Halloween did a lot to make sure that it wasn't a gore fest, whereas you look at the kills in Friday the 13th, while they seem kind of tame by today's standards, you compare it to anything else out of the time, it was pretty gory. Like, fucking Bill against the back of the door with an arrow in his eye and an arrow in his neck, like, and bleeding. The girl getting the axe in the face. There's so many great kills in this movie.
Yeah, the special effects made it worthwhile. Well, except for the slitting of the throat of that one chick at the beginning.
Yeah,
you could tell the different colored tint on it when the slice of the neck was going. You're just like,
oh well, I haven't seen this in blue. Well, actually, that's not true. I've seen it in HD because my brother rebought them digitally on Microsoft. So I've seen, but like I never noticed that. We're also watching. We also watch our movies on a projector now because it's more cinematic.
I sadly noticed it again with CinemaSins. And that's the sad part right there. Is like that's when you notice is like the neck was fine, but then when the killer gets to it, it just slices the neck, and you're just like, oh god, now I do see it. Holy!
Do you know how that effect was done too? Like the actress was told to keep her neck closed until the exact moment when the blood was supposed to come out on there. So it's a really cheap effect, but it was effective.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, and that's the thing about Tom Savini. Like, he's really good at making effects, but making them effective, rather than like we're like putting lots of money into them to make them look better. That's one of the things that Nightmare on Elm Street got a little far away with. Like, yeah, I love in part 4. I like the bug transformation in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, but like that effect cost them millions. So But Tom Savini literally, here's a fucking arrow through the neck. Like, it takes him like 2 seconds. So, by the way, we should probably talk about the killer in this one, Mama Voorhees or Mrs. Voorhees.
Betsy Palmer.
Betsy Palmer, that was great casting because at the time she was like a TV mom. So like she's the last, they casted the last person you would think to be the killer. So it doesn't mean anything to us these days because we don't know who Betsy Palmer is until, well, retroactively we do, but we didn't growing up. So no. It did, but like still, it was kind of like without even before knowing, it's like kind of a shocker. I'm like this mom with the Karen haircut is like the killer. Like, sorry. And the way she acts is very like schizophrenic and stuff. Like she just do things like "Killer, mommy, killer, I will, Jason," like stuff like that. It's
oh god, you just made me think of a joke. It's like now every Karen watches Friday the 13th just to see Pamela Voorhees is acting. It's like, how can I be like her?
How can I ask for the manager today?
Yeah, definitely.
But I love the fight at the end between her and Alice. Like it's like raw. Like they basically, and it's funny when they said they filmed that, they just literally filmed themselves smacking each other. For like forever.
Sean must have been like, okay, in this scene, just smack that shit out of each other. Just don't hold back. Sure? I'm sure. We're paying you. Trust me. Action!
And I actually like how they kill off Mama Voorhees too.
Beheading. But that slow motion effect made it even 10 times better. And
I love how in the DVD release they extended the scene where her hands come up to look for the head. And by the way, those hands, it's hard to see with the lighting, but those hands are from one of the effects guys, Tasso. That's why they look like, if you look at the Blu-ray version, I heard you can see the hair on the knuckles because it's a dude who's holding the head on his back. There's actually a photo, and I'll see if I can find it and put it up here, of Tom Savini took a photo of Tasso with the cast of Betsy Palmer's head on his back for them to do that shot. But yeah, it's it's interesting just that they kept that on there. It's a cool effect because it's like, oh, my head is gone. Somehow you're still alive, but it definitely adds something surreal to it. Speaking of surreal, let's talk about the ending of this movie. This movie fucking like if it's your first time seeing it, like it tricks you. Like,
oh god, yes,
it does everything right. It plays the music to make you feel calm, like the movie's over, and it does that slow zoom in on Alice in the water, and then bam, Jason jumps out of the lake and tries to pull her under.
Yeah, it's like you got that calm. When I first saw it when I was little, I was not expecting it. That was like, again, I talked about jump scares earlier, how they go for the cheap jump scare.
Yeah,
there's cheap jump scares, and then there's jump scares done right.
And I remember Sean Cunningham talked about in the interviews that like he had the musician write a piece that just sounded to make you feel good, and he's like, okay, we're gonna find the part of this that feels the most unexpected, and that's when we get them, and that's so genius. Like that's okay. That's technically a jump scare, but that's a jump scare done right. Give it to them when the person least expect it, not when we're waiting for it to come, like so many movies do these days. And it's just, and like that movie ends with like Alice is in the hospital and she's like, the boy's still in the lake, and that's how it ends. And I think like that part of the ending's like they basically say the Jason was a dream, but the way it zooms in on the lake at the end basically says there's going to be a sequel. So
yeah,
I don't like it. It's the same as the ending to the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they set it up to have it a sequel, and I remember hearing that Wes Craven fought against that until finally he lamented and let them do an ending that was sequel bait. And I don't think it hurts the first movie, but it definitely is like okay, there's going to be a second one. Like there, you can maybe when it first came out, there would be no way to tell. But even if you look at it and you unaware of all the other movies, you watch it now, it's like, okay, sequel's going to happen just the way it ends. But yeah, overall, the first movie, I still think it's a classic. How do you feel about the first movie?
The first movie, like I said, well, I was trying to say, I apologize.
Sorry.
It's fine. The first movie is always going to be a cult classic to me. I always loved how it would set up everything, especially for the ending. And like I said, a jump scare done right. Nowadays, you can't even get that. When I was little and when that happened, I was literally scared out of my fucking mind. But that's how you built it up. You're just like, it's over. It's over. The killer's gone. And then it's like, holy shit!
And I mean, I know we keep dreading on this, but like so many movies these days, you can tell when the jump scares are coming. Like the way they're built up, they build up more on suspense these days rather than building on, being a surprise. So
it's like you literally have to go like you have to clench every part of your body to know with that suspense. Like here comes jump scare, here comes jump scare. What? There it is.
Of course, on repeat viewings too, like of the first movie, I never get the timing right of when Jason comes out of the water. So every time, like even though I'm like he's coming, I know he's coming. It's like, all right, he's coming now. It's like no, he's
you'll never get that timing ever.
Unless I watch that scene in tandem for like over and over and over again. But I'm not going to waste my time doing it. I like the challenge of figuring out when he's going to pop out. But yeah,
I mean, I finally figured it out myself, but it's been so long I probably will forget again. But oh well. So that's the suspense of it.
So yeah, overall, we both think it's still a classic. Definitely check it out, though. Just especially if you want to get into this movie series and you're not a big fan of scary movies, this one's generally not that scary compared to what we get today. So, I mean, it was scary when it first came out, obviously, because it did amazing at the box office and people really enjoyed it. But honestly, like, it's probably one of the more tame ones in the series. And it's a good starting off point. A lot of people say start off with the good ones, the later good ones, but honestly, I think you should start off with the first one. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely.
So, speaking of Jason, part 2. By the way, guys, we might be going through a few of these pretty quickly because part 1, we spent like 20 minutes on part 1, and the only reason for that is because it's the first one. So some of these sequels, some of them are forgettable, some of them are pretty good, some of them we have some stuff to talk about. But the second one's important because it's the first time we see, outside of the ending of the first movie, Jason. So yeah, and it literally happens like I think months after the first one, in just like the next lake over.
No. Actually, after the intro and everything, it literally happens 5 years later.
Oh, it is 5 years? Okay.
Yeah, 5 years later on. It's like after. I might as well go ahead and say this now. Adrienne King does come back, but for like the opening scene only, because they wanted her to come back for, for a full run of the movie, but she was like, no, because of, if I'm right, stalkers and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, she had a stalker at that time, so
yeah,
she really was not comfortable continuing the franchise. And it sucks, but I mean, I totally understand. Like, if someone was stalking me, the last thing I want to do is put myself in the limelight again.
Yeah.
Luckily, they filmed her scenes in a pretty remote area, so the person never found out. And yeah, so
yeah, which is great.
But it is a shame because, spoilers, her character gets offed. So, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think this was even before that. I think this was the first attempt at making Friday the 13th an anthology series, which it never came to be.
I don't know if I see it as an anthology series because, like, unless they were going to do a different killer every time, but
they were going to try to do a different killer. Or
I don't know how that would work.
Lore kind of stuff. I don't know, but anyway, that didn't happen, and yeah, they just went with Jason as the killer after this, to be honest.
A couple of trivia things that I want to talk about is the guy in the wheelchair dude. That actor was I don't know if he's still alive, but he's I think he's gay. I'm trying to remember. And they played him off as the hunk.
I think so.
Maybe I'm getting him confused with somebody else later on. I could be. I'm not sure. But that the wheelchair guy, that was the one death I felt bad about. I'm like, don't kill the guy in the wheelchair. It's like, come on, look, Jason, have some tact.
I was about to say, let's be honest, there is no leeway, man. Yeah. I'm talking nobody's safe. Well, little kids, maybe.
Yeah. So, what were you going to be when you grow up? Yeah, I remember that shit.
Yeah, from part 6.
But yeah, this one is really just made for like expanding the franchise and like Jason really being the killer. This is being the first movie that Jason actually does killing in. He doesn't have his iconic mask yet. He doesn't get that till part 3, which a lot of people don't realize. I didn't realize first time I saw it.
Oh yeah, part 3 was that integral moment where Jason got his mask, and minus the 3D aspect, of course.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, the second movie was iconic because it really showed actually what Jason could do. And it's funny, they got a guy who was kind of short to play Jason in this, and after this, they would basically just get big, bulky guys until they got Kane Hodder, who isn't as tall as some of the people they got to play Jason, but is probably the most menacing. But literally, like, the guy they got to play Jason auditioned to be a camp counselor. They said, hey, sorry, we got somebody else for this role, but we see that you've done stunts before. Do you want to be Jason? And he's like, sure. So, and it's funny. God. They talked about the mask he had to wear. They had to, like, close off one of his eyes for hours on end, and the other eye was tunnel vision. So, like, he couldn't really see for hours. And there's this one scene where he was supposed to turn the pickaxe when Rennie brought the machete down, and it missed, and his finger got cut off. Ooh. So he had to go to the hospital and they put it back on. They put his finger back on, stitch it back on. They put a condom on his hand and put makeup on it, and that's how he finished the movie.
Oh yeah.
So there's some scenes, if you look close enough, you can see one of his fingers looks a little weird. That's because that's the one that they had to make up because it got cut off.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But in terms of like some of the kills in this movie, I like. Is this the one with the upside down kill? I'm trying to remember. Like the guy gets his neck slashed upside down. Is it this one? I know.
Remember.
I know the wheelchair guy gets the axe in the head, which is, and then his wheelchair goes down. He goes down the stairs. This one doesn't have too many really.
Oh
good
yeah,
kills.
yeah. It was.
Yeah, this one doesn't have a ton of good kills, to be honest.
Actually, I did remember this. Crazy Ralph. We didn't talk about him in part 1 because it was like,
oh yeah,
we're all doomed and all that crap. And he comes back in this thinking, oh, it's
to try to warn the kids. All he's doing is trying to warn the kids, but they say, oh, it's just Crazy Ralph, and then he dies.
And then he dies.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, not even Crazy Ralph is safe.
Yeah. I like that they show how Jason has survived for so long, that he basically made a shack in the woods out of like just like spare parts and stuff. And he made even a separate room for his mother where her severed head is and her sweater is. And I think it's interesting near the end of the movie when Rennie gets chased in there, she puts the sweater on and pretends to be Jason's mother, and Jason buys it for a little bit probably because he's confused and crazy. But then as she's bringing the machete down, the real mother's face peers over the side and he's like, oh fuck. And that's when he brings out the axe to try to stop her from using the machete on him. I think like stuff like that's really neat. You can see the little psychological stuff that goes on with like, cause at this point, Jason's not really a zombie. He's just a deranged lunatic killer because he's basically lived in the woods all his life. And they never really explained that because they said he drowned, but maybe he just like, he didn't drown and just like everybody left him there. So he just kind of was like, I guess I'm living in the woods.
That's always been confusing to me right there. It's like he was out in the middle of the freaking lake. Can't swim. How do you survive that? And I keep thinking in my head, maybe he grabbed onto something and it started floating. Nobody else was around and he somehow made it to the other side of the lake.
The only thing I could think of is someone like found his body like floating in there and then like resuscitated him back to life. And he went crazy and killed them, but they've never explained that, like how he survived, because the thought was Jason was dead, he's a zombie in the lake. But he's not a zombie in this one. He's just a weird mongoloid guy.
Yeah, and I was about to say, when he got revived and everything, I don't think he killed the person straight away. It was just more, he was revived, he goes to find his mom or something, and then basically he sees his mother get killed.
It could be. It could also be. It could also be the thing I could think of is like they because they never said that they found Jason's body. They just said he drowned in the lake. So what if it is possible that maybe somebody found him, resuscitated him, and it is possible when you drown to like be out for quite a bit, even if you get the air back. So maybe he was like unconscious for a good amount of time and then finally woke up. And then by that point, everybody had stopped looking for him. So he's like, oh, everybody's gone. And maybe he just decided, well, I'm going to live in the woods now. Who knows? They never explained this shit.
Nah.
We're just literally spitting theories right now. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about the second movie. It is the introduction of Jason as the killer, with his potato sack that he wears on his head. And there's not really any super great deaths in this movie that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's some that I'm missing, but like all of them are pretty quick. Like Crazy Ralph just gets choked. the axe in the head for the wheelchair guy, and like the upside down kill is pretty neat, but it's just a neck slit. It was really, I think this one was made on the cheap so they could get it out quickly, because it was out a year after the first one. Like, they made it very quickly. So
yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say this right now: the '80s in terms of slashers technically belonged to Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, well it's like the craze got started by Halloween in the late 70s, early 80s, but it was like Friday the 13th that made like all the imitators come out. Like I said, like look at the movies that what's her name? Shit, I can't think of her name. She was the main girl in Halloween. I forget the actress's name.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis. She played in a ton of like shitty slasher movies after Halloween. Like a ton. Yeah. Like Prom Night, just for example. Mm-hmm. That's one she's in. And there's a Death Train one that she's in. Like, there's a whole bunch of shitty, like, if there was a holiday, they made a slasher movie out of it, because Friday the 13th popularized a day being time for people to die. I mean, technically Black Christmas started that as a slasher movie that took place on Christmas, but
Deadly Night. Yeah,
those were like in the 70s. So like these movies, like Friday the 13th really like kickstarted like people doing like the Valentine's Day. That's a slasher movie. So I kind of want to go and watch all these shitty slasher movies at some point from the 80s and see if they're any good. But
God, I think I actually watched a couple of them. The Mutilator was one of them. Fucking, oh my God, there was like a bit more I can't remember. It was just so bad.
But if we're done talking about the second movie, I'd like to move on to the third movie.
Yeah, let's move on to the third movie, please.
So part 3 is another iconic movie in the franchise for 2 reasons. 1, it's where Jason gets his hockey mask. And 2, this one was shot in 3D. Now, unfortunately, they have not made a new style 3D conversion of this movie, because like there are like 3D TVs are kind of out now, but you can still get like 3D glasses that work with like not the stereoscopic red and green 3D, but like the one like the 3DS style 3D where you see it looks like it's actually coming off the screen. This movie was made with the red and green 3D, so it doesn't look that good today. You could still watch the movie like that with glasses, but it's that kind of 3D. It just is okay. But they really need to do a conversion of this for 3D TVs or for 3D screens and stuff, like a proper one, because my uncle has a 3D TV and that's really cool. Like, even though it's glasses you have to wear, it's really cool. And it's just because now it's on the outs, I don't ever see them making that conversion, but whatever.
No, they'll never do it.
But the big thing about this movie is I think this movie has a much better cast. I really like Shelley. He's one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah, and because of Shelley, that's how we have the iconic hockey mask, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just a guy who plays pranks and shit. There were pranksters in the previous movies, but like Shelley was like is the first one I think of when I think of pranksters, from the prankster stereotype from the Friday the 13th series. These movies all have the same thing. They've got a prankster, they've got like a ditzy bitchy girl, and they got the ones that get naked. So
oh yeah, the stereotypical cast of dead fucks.
Yeah, and then the main girl is usually the good quote unquote girl. I say with air quotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shelley was the first jokester. What I liked about Shelley is he wasn't the kind of like jokester who was like the class fool kind of thing. He was more like I'm a nerd and I play jokes with my weird nerd hobby, which I thought was really interesting. I thought it was funny too when he runs into the biker gang. they like try to kick his ass because he knocked over their bikes. But yeah, Shelley was, and the funny thing about this is Shelley was invited because he doesn't know how to talk to women. He doesn't know how to pick up girls, and they had some girls with them. And his whole thing was he was going to try to pick up women with his cool nerd tricks. But of course that didn't end up working out. But But yeah, he's like the star of this movie, in my opinion. Next to Jason, he's like the star. Like, it's just too bad that he dies off like midway through, so we don't get to see any more of it. And of course, nobody believes that he's dead because he plays those dead pranks all the time.
Yeah.
Also, there's hippies in this movie.
Yeah.
They own like a house near the fucking, I guess, the Crystal Lake place. But yeah, they get killed too. One of them gets fucking killed with a hot like iron. Like,
oh yeah, the hot iron.
You know what? The 3D might be gimmicky, but it made some of the kills kind of neat, like the hot iron poker and like what is it? What do you call it? A rake or I don't know what the fuck you call it. Like a fork or something, like a giant, I don't know, fucking farmer terms, but you know what I mean? Like the big giant like thing that's like a giant fork. It's like some kind of like thing, the thing for moving hay. I don't know what it's called. But one of the bikers gets stabbed and you could see him like holding the thing into his wound and it does the little 3D effect. I think the funniest fucking effect in the movie is the eyeball.
Oh yeah, the eyeball just shooting out.
Because the eyeball, like, the thing is, they didn't do the effect fast enough, so you could clearly see it's a fucking dummy.
Yeah.
The eyeball comes out. It's so dumb, but I love it.
Oh yeah.
I think the chainsaw gets used in this movie, but not by Jason. Gets used by another character. I think? Or is that 5? I'm thinking. I know 5 they do it, but
I know they did it in 5 as well, but I was no. So don't remember.
Well, I will say one of the things that was iconic is near the end of the movie, the our heroine, I can't remember her name, she was kind of forgettable, puts the axe in his head, and that where that slit is has been in the mask for every single one except for certain versions. Because Jason has kept the same mask this whole time. Well, until part 7, but I mean he gets it back and it looks the same. So
yeah, we'll get to that later too.
But yeah, that slit was made in this movie. Not only did the mask come in this movie, but that part of the mask, the iconic part of the mask, it's really dumb. It's just a chunk of the mask is cut through, but that has carried on since, except for some instances, like I said. I don't really care about the backstory they tried to retroactively add into this movie.
Oh god, yeah.
Like they try to say that Jason tried to like kill the main girl once before, and it's like, no, that doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I have to talk about this because there's been trivia of an alternate ending to this.
Okay.
Because, you know how it ended with, Jason getting the axe to the head, and he falls down, and then the main girl pretty much doing almost the first, the ending to the first movie, except Jason is now coming out of the thing, and then there's the remains of his mother coming out of the lake, pulling the main girl out.
Yeah. By the way, it's not framed or done the same way. The effect actually, it's so funny. The effect was so cheap in the first movie, but you believed it because of the way it was shot. But this one, it just looks cheap and awkward. So, like, I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to bring it all back, but it's like, it's just a dumb puppet.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And the main girl is just now going crazy. Kind of thing. The alternate ending is she does all this, goes back to the house. Jason is in the house standing and kills her. Just straight up kills her.
Huh.
If that ending would have stayed, we would have had no survivors. That would have been the only Friday the 13th movie to have no survivors.
Yeah, that's interesting. They actually probably should have done that. That would have been an interesting film.
Yeah, it would have been. There's actually screenshots of it on the internet to prove that theory
I'll
as
have
well.
to take a look at that.
Yeah, you're going to have to. And part 3 is where it should have ended there.
Yeah, I will say, I do want to just go back real quick and say the kills are way better in this one than 2, even though they have to do for the 3D. The girl getting the fucking harpoon in the eye, the fucking upside down kill, like the guy walking on his hands. He basically gets stabbed in the dick, and that's how he dies. But,
what a way to go, right?
We already talked about the eyeball, which I fucking love. Like, I don't know, and of course the one biker dude getting stabbed by the fucking pitchfork. That's what it's called, pitchfork. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But no, this movie like upped the ante. I still don't think it's as good as the first one. I know that's kind of odd to say, but I can throw the third one on anytime and really enjoy myself.
Oh, definitely. It's
like
one of
over the second one. Like oftentimes I watch them all in order. And the second one is I kind of got tired of partway through. And not to say that it's a bad movie, but it's not as good as the first one. And this one kind of ups the ante, which is great because then we knew the next one, because this was supposed to end with this, and you're supposed to see Jason dead at the end, and he's supposed to be dead.
Yeah,
like,
just
that's
dead.
They were like, this is the end of the series, whatever. And then they made part 4, the final,
quote unquote,
the final chapter, which they still call the final chapter proudly, by the way.
Proudly. Again, this is supposed to, just like technically, like after part 1 and after part 3, this was supposed to, yet again, after this movie, start an anthology of films with the Friday the 13th name, which, spoiler alert, didn't happen.
Yeah. I don't know if I've given you a chance to speak your thoughts in part 3. How do you think of part 3 as a whole?
Part 3 to me is a guilty pleasure. I'm sorry. I love that movie. I will always say part 1 is a cult classic and I will always watch it, but part 3 to me is one of my favorites out of the entire series.
I wouldn't call part 3 like guilty pleasure. I think it's one of the better ones. Like, it's one of the ones where all the kills are really well done. Yeah, it's got the gimmick of 3D, but whatever, it's fine. And I like some of the characters, whereas like part 2, I don't really care about any of the characters. And part 1, to be fair, like, I care about Alice, but this doesn't fucking matter because we know she's going to survive. So this is the first one where I felt the characters were stronger, especially Shelley.
Oh yeah,
and the girl that he tries to get with too. And then there's the dude who gets the eyeball shot out. He's like all protective of the main girl, so we get to see something interesting there. But like, yeah, I think this is the first one that was solid. Like, if you thought the first 2 were boring, this one's definitely much improved.
Oh yeah,
but I still think the first one is better than this one, just based on how like what it did and how well it does. You know, the suspense and everything. And this one was supposed to be the last one, and then they made part 4 and called it the last one.
Spoiler alert, no it's not.
There's one thing I gotta say about this film. Crispin Glover. And
his dancing.
And the funny thing is, the director said that he didn't tell him to do a wacky dance. That was the dance he was doing in clubs at the time.
What the
That's his actual dancing.
I guess it was his density.
and I love how they knew it was going to be the last one, so the director asked for a lot of things. He's like, I tried to ask for things at the studio and absolutely hate. I'm like, so can we get a kid? So yeah, we got a kid. We got Corey Feldman, who's very important to the franchise. And he's like, can we get a dog? So we got a dog. And then he's like, I don't know how I had the balls to say this, but can we get twins? So they got twins.
We got hot twins. Come on.
And I think the studio's just like, okay, this is gonna be the last one. We'll do whatever the fuck you want. So, but yeah. So this movie, even though it's called the final chapter, is the first of what I like to call the Tommy trilogy.
Oh god, yeah.
Because with with a lot of horror franchises, they have an ongoing thing. Like there's Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. There's the Myers family in Halloween, and this one, it's...
I was about to say, which version of Halloween at this point?
Any of them. The Myers family's in all of them, except for, like, except the Schroed, when the Schroed family's in it, but the Schroed family is part connected with the Myers family. But in any case, going back to part 4, like, the character that Corey Feldman plays is the character that moves on for these movies. Every other movie, any character that's moved on was instantly killed in the next one, or was never heard from again. Like, Alice was killed at the start of part 2. We never heard from Rennie in part 3 at all. No. But Corey's character, trying to remember his name right now. I can't think of it right now.
Feldman's character?
Corey Feldman's character, yeah.
Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis, that's who it is. I just said it a minute ago. So Tommy Jarvis...
said his first name, but you...
Yeah, so Tommy Jarvis this is the first time they made a character that carries on. And in this first movie, part 4, which is ironically called Still the Last Chapter, I'm going to keep bringing that up, is the movie where he's a kid. In the second one, he's like a teenager / college-age student who's in a mental facility. And the last one, he's an adult finishing what he started, sort of thing. Finishing off Jason kind of thing. But let's start with part 4. Corey Feldman's kind of like this weird kid who's basically, I think, was based off of Tom Savini, because he collects masks and has all these weird, crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. He plays a Commodore 64 wearing a fucking, like, monster mask, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think this one was great because, of course, they got to do all the things they wanted. Like, Crispin Glover's great because you don't know about his character. He's just so odd that, like, and Crispin Glover's always been an odd actor. Like, he plays the dad in Back to the Future after this. Mm-hmm. And he's odd in that. But he's really odd in this. And it's funny, it almost feels like a lot of his shit was ad-libbed. And he's...
So you mean to tell me when he says, "Where's the goddamn corkscrew?"
That's got to be ad-libbed a little bit, but
has to be.
I love how he's kind of friends, kind of not friends with the fucking jokester kid in this one. And I love at the end where the jokester kid's like, "What the fuck? You're getting laid and I'm not?"
This is the dead fuck now.
I found that so fucking funny. But yeah, it's this movie also has a guy who, the first time we have a guy pursuing Jason, like, who's like eventually we get the dude in part 9, but this is the first time we get a character who is actively trying to pursue Jason and take him out. I forget the guy's name.
Can we get to his kill real quick?
Oh yeah, his is...
Because it made me wonder, he's like, this motherfucker's gonna come back as soon as Jason gets up to him and Jason starts killing him, he is just screaming out, "Oh God, he's killing me!" Ah! I'm like,
he's like, "Run! Run!
He's killing me! Run!"
I gotta say, the guy they picked to play Jason, I can't remember his name, but he apparently played the Swamp Thing. So he's played a lot of, like, roles as monsters in movies, so he had kind of experience, and apparently he fucking hated Corey Feldman. He thought he was a spoiled brat.
Ted White. It was Ted White as Jason.
He thought he was a fucking spoiled brat, so he used that as motivation when playing Jason, and it made Jason really ferocious, which I really liked.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'm sure, like, well, Corey Feldman was kind of like a child star at that point, but I'm sure at the same time, he probably, he's probably fine. The guy just probably didn't like kids, but like, this was before the Coreys, like
Corey Feldman, 90s. Corey Haim,
yeah, before they got big and weird and shit. But yeah, like, and the funny thing is, Corey Feldman was a huge fan of Halloween, and he thought originally he got cast for Halloween. He's like, "Oh, I'm not in Halloween. I'm in Friday the 13th." He's like, "Oh, okay. What's that one name about again?" They're like, "Okay, you got to watch the other movies." So he watched like part 3 when it hit on cable, and he's like, "I love this. I want to be a part of this kind of thing." And Friday the 13th, like, this wasn't his big break. Goonies was shortly after, but this is a high watermark for movie. Like people, it's one of the movies he gets asked about the most.
Oh yeah,
and Corey Feldman has expressed wanting to do like kind of give the Halloween H2O treatment to the Friday the 13th series. He'd like to come back as Tommy and do like a movie where it's him versus Jason kind of thing. I think that'd be really cool. I just don't see it ever happening just because of licensing issues, and Corey Feldman's not the most reliable actor.
No, he's not even in his right state of mind last time I checked.
Yeah, he's not, like I said, he's not the most reliable actor these days. He's a classic case of child actor gets big and then goes crazy, and sometimes it's crazy, but sometimes isn't. Like, I'm so glad that Macaulay Culkin got his crazy phase out, and now he just runs a website selling jokes shit and shows up on shows up on internet videos now because he's such a big fan of. But yeah, so Corey's role in this movie is very big because not only is he the kid, he's a weird kid and he likes masks and shit. And he's kind of like a fish out of water in this one because it's always been about the teens and the body count and stuff for Jason. But they wanted to kill Jason off, and Corey like shaves, or he doesn't actually shave his head. He had a ball cap on, but like Tommy shaves his head to try to look like Jason to confuse him, and then fucking stabs him in the end with the machete, going die, die. And it was like a weird end of the movie. A lot of people don't like that ending. That Tommy kills him. I think it's fine because especially at the time that they were going to say this is the last one. Of course, Tommy gives that look at the end and they slow it down. It's like, okay, they're going to do another fucking movie. Even though they just said this is the final chapter.
Yeah. This is where they did try to attempt to make an anthology, but this time with the different, instead of being like the basis of Friday the 13th, the bad luck situation. No, it's like, we're going to have a new killer now. Every single time.
And the interesting thing is they kind of did in the next movie, but we won't get into that just yet. Tom Savini's back, so the kills are much more elaborate again. The corkscrew kill is really cool. They shot that thing in reverse. So there's the corkscrew part, and then they shot the axe in reverse going into his head. I love how quick of an effect it is, and you just see the like blood gushing out of fucking Crispin Freeman's head. It's a really cool effect.
Oh yeah.
But I love how they shot part of that in reverse. Like, it's funny to think about stuff in reverse. Like, people say that Bruce Campbell's the master of acting in reverse because he's had to do so many things in reverse for special effects. But that's one really cool one they did with Crispin Glover. There's some of the other kills. There's the girl with the shower towel. She gets an axe right between the tits. I'm pretty sure that that happens in this movie. I think
so.
I know that a girl gets pushed out a window and falls down a story out of a fucking building. That's not how she dies, but that's how she gets out of a situation. And I think she still dies near the end. Honestly, the kills I don't remember the most about this. I remember mostly the characters. And like certain, like obviously this being Tommy's movie. I like the how they did the one thing I remember them doing is like Corey Feldman talked about the part where Jason's supposed to come through the glass, like the window, because Jason always comes through a window. I don't know if we said that, but he comes through windows in these movies. And there's one where they did this big long shot of all the stuff being thrown through the windows. They did one big long shot and they had to time it. They had to go like da 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 da, thing happens, da 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 da, thing happens, da 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 da. And what happened is Corey said he remembered is when the mark was supposed to happen, there was no Jason. He's like, okay, they're still rolling, so still look like you're scared. Something's probably happened. You know, something like piece of makeup fly out, and then like 10, 15 seconds after he was supposed to come out, boom, he comes out and grabs Corey, and Corey Feldman said, scared the shit out of me. So he was like, I was not acting for that part. That was me being scared. So like,
there you go.
So that was authentic. So I think that was really neat. The sister, I don't really care for the sister. She's there because Tommy's too young to fight Jason on his own. That's honestly what I think. Yeah, this one is also really good. I don't know if it's on the same ante, up the ante nearly as much as 3 did, but it definitely has some great stuff. It's got, obviously, it's the start of the Tommy trilogy. It's got Crispin Glover, who's always great in stuff that I see him in. Personally, I think this is one of the better movies. How do you feel?
It's so, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, with all these, I'll watch over and over and over again. Don't get me wrong. But it's just more...
Yeah. But yeah, if you don't want to start with the original movies, if you would like to just start with this new trilogy, this is a good starting off point. The final chapter is a great starting off point.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, now on to, this is going to make me sound controversial, but probably one of my favorites, part 5.
And congratulations, you just got everybody to hate you.
Even though the entire movie is based on a guy who got killed over a candy bar.
Damn candy bar!
I really enjoy this movie because, first off, they did something different with the killer this time. It's still Jason. Well, it is Jason, I'm saying with quotations in the air.
Tell me we can reveal his names.
But yeah, they try to deal with what I like about this movie is, first off, let's say it takes place like years later after part 4. Tommy's now in high school. They got a different actor to play him. They did though get Corey Feldman to do one scene for this movie. He was going to be in the whole movie, but at that time he was doing Goonies, and he just was impossible to book. So
yeah, once he had Goonies do it. Once he was doing the Goonies, it was just more, hey, we need you for this. It's like, I don't know if I can do the whole movie. At least do this part.
Yeah,
please.
and the funny thing is, Corey Feldman said the only time in his acting career where he's worked 14 days straight is when he did that Friday the 13th part 5, because he did Goonies for 6 days. He would have a rest day, and then he would go and do another 6 days of Goonies. But on his rest day, which was a Sunday for that particular week when they were filming this, he filmed the scene for Friday the 13th part 5. So like,
oh yeah.
So this kid was overworked, but he must have loved his job, because like I think probably Corey Feldman has expressed that he did want to be in part 5, but like it's impossible, because Goonies was such a arduous shoot that there's no way he would have been able to. And the studio was like, we're not going to wait for Corey Feldman. Like we're going to go on. They probably would have made they probably would have made more money if he was in it, because he got big at that point, but it's like but they were like, no, let's just go on. And I think the actor that got to play Tommy, this one's decent, but like Tommy doesn't really do anything in this movie, to be honest. Like, no,
he's just maybe a few words, and he's like a fucking mute the entire time. Just like,
and but the important part is the actor played him as being unstable, as he was supposed to be in this movie. So like, there's this one point where someone tries to egg him on, and he fucking punches him, and they're like, and you can, when you look at the character, it's like Tommy is like fucking scared. He doesn't like. But like, he knows how to defend himself. It's like a click in his brain or whatever. Also, the times when Tommy hallucinates Jason, it's the look he had in part 4, not the look he has in this movie, which is different. The hockey mask is different, first off, which is a dead giveaway how this one's different from the previous ones. But yeah, whenever he hallucinates about Jason, because he does, it's always the look from part 4. So they got that continuity pretty well, even though this movie has continuity errors, especially at the end.
We could be here all day trying to.
The part that I just really love about this movie, again, is the characters. I love the fucking crazy people like Chocolate Boy and like Crazy Axe Man, and like and the fucking mother and son. The mother who's like, shut the fuck up and eat your slop. I fucking love her. She's one of the best. She said when she's cutting a chicken's head off, she goes, hey, yeah. And the son who has his own fucking mini bike, who's just a fucking moron. I love him. I love this movie.
They hurt me, mama. They hurt me.
Yeah.
Glad he died.
Yeah. The kills in this movie are actually really fun too. I also like the girl who does the robot she was the daughter of somebody who played in another horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm trying to remember who she's the daughter of off the top of my head. I can't think of it. I'll probably put the text on the screen. But I love that she has a scene where she does the fucking robot. There's the one awkward, crazy dude who, like, literally he's just like, I want to make love to you. And this girl laughs at him. And then he fucking gets killed.
Oh,
yeah. And this is the movie where, this is the first movie where they have the cool black guy. Like,
oh, yeah.
There's the cool black guy with the cool black girlfriend. And I think, if I remember correctly, he gets killed in the shitter.
Yeah, he does. He does get killed in the shitter.
That's why I love this movie. It's so fucking dumb. I love it.
I actually have some trivia for this one, and I just found out this.
Sure.
So this movie is actually cast under a fake title.
Yeah?
Yeah, Repetition. Many of the actors in the film were not aware it was a Friday the 13th installment until they were cast in their roles.
Well, I mean, they had to start doing that because, like, the working title or the hidden title, I guess, for part 6 was Aladdin Sane. Like, Aladdin Sane. Like, that's what they did, so.
This was the start of it, and John Shepard, the guy who played Teen Tommy, technically in this, he spent months volunteering at a state mental hospital to prepare for the role, and he was really disappointed when he found out Repetition is just, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Another damn Friday the 13th movie. Shit.
But I mean, like, I'm glad that he did that research because he played the character great. Like, like, as you know, I know that I said that Tommy doesn't fucking do anything in this movie, but like, he's a head case. Like, he's mentally unstable. So of course he doesn't fucking do anything. He doesn't want to like react because the few times he does react, it goes poorly for him. He punches a dude like for no reason.
Oh,
because the dude was egging him on a little bit. Like, is this the movie with the dude who's got the car who won't start and he's singing the song? He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, buddy. My car won't start. Yada yada. I think that's this one.
Might be.
It might be part 6. These two kind of blur sometimes.
Yeah.
And then of course you got the little kid who is like, I love his commentary near the end when the heroin girl's trying to fight Jason. He's just like, oh damn, she got him. I love it. This movie is so campy, but I love it. Just the characters make it alone. It's just it makes it amazing. Some of the kills are pretty good, like I said, but not all of them are as great as previous movies' kills. And one thing that I really do enjoy about this is, spoiler alert, the killer's not Jason. It's a guy. It's a copycat killer. It's the way they said it is the paramedic from the start of the movie who gets the body of Chocolate Boy, who gets axed up by Axeman. He's his dad.
Yeah.
And then he decides to go on a copycat killer rampage.
Yeah, because, hey, these fucking assholes basically killed my boy. You pissed off Roy.
You pissed off Roy.
You know, we make that joke for Smash Roy's our boy. Well, you pissed. Boy. You pissed. You killed Roy's boy. You pissed off Roy. Now Roy's coming.
That's why I fucking love how dumb and connected this movie is. It's like Chocolate Boy's dad is the fucking murderer. This is why it's one of my favorites, because it's so dumb. I just love campy shit. Like, this is where the series really got campy, and this is why it's one of my favorites. It's just so great. But And then there is a thing at the end where the characters are at the hospital, and Tommy pulls his best ending of Halloween 4 and puts the mask on and pretends to. It cuts to him trying to kill the girl from the previous movie, but it just cuts there, so we don't know what happened. I guess they again thought this was going to be the last one.
No, they weren't. It wasn't going to be the last one. It was going to be the start of this series again with repetition of the killers, but I'm thinking Tommy was going to be the next Jason for a while.
I just hate it when series do that, because they were going to make, in Halloween, they did the same thing, like I said, with the little girl, who's related to Michael Myers. We find out, like, she kills the mom in the end, and then, like, they don't do anything with it. They just make her a mental case in the next movie, like, and a mute. Ironically, a lot like Tommy in this movie. It just, he doesn't do the copycat stuff until the very end. But yeah, that plot point didn't end up going anywhere. I'm assuming at this point they eventually realized we can't get away from Jason. Jason's going to be a part of these movies.
Yeah, it's just, plus the box office and I would say the rating, the reception of it was just from critics, but fans kind of hated it.
Oh, I know a lot of people don't like this one, and I've said my piece that I love this movie, because I just think it's dumb and hilarious and fun, and I'll put it on any time to watch. But I didn't really ask, how do you feel about this one? Are you with the fans on this one, or do you like to watch it for its dumbness?
I'm 50-50. I'll pop it in. It's like, I gotta get to part 6 somehow.
Yeah. I mean, this one, you can skip it and just go to part 6, but honestly, like, if you want a movie that's so bad it's good, this is definitely the one to pick. Like, it's just, the way it's made is like, it's just, there's so many things about it that I love it because it's a shitty movie that it becomes definitely a thing. Like, it's not like The Room levels, but like, it's definitely a movie they tried to make good that ended up not being good, and it just has a lot of elements of horror movies that are cliches, and I love it. So I love this movie. Only's 50-50, but it is definitely, I recommend checking out this one just to see how dumb it is. They tried. Yeah, just how dumb it is. It's just great. Moving on to the end of the Tommy trilogy, we are on part 6, which, does it have a subtitle? I can't remember part 6.
Jason Lives.
Jason Lives. Yeah, so Tommy, the dumbass that he is, finds Jason's corpse and sticks a fucking metal rod in it, and lightning strikes and brings Jason back to life as a zombie.
Good job, dumbass!
Tommy, you're doing a great bang-up job for somebody who wanted to kill Jason.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill him! He's already dead! Why are you doing this? I want him deader!
I want to say the director of this film is a big fan of, like, gothic horror stuff, and you can definitely tell that in this movie that he tried to put that in here. Again, I think this was supposed to be the last one, or they were planning to make this the last one just because it was the end of the trilogy. And this movie's part 6 is pretty good. I do have some problems with it though. Like, I don't find any of the characters really interesting other than Tommy. Yeah, fucking Tommy. I find the police dude infuriating.
Oh God, I couldn't wait for him to die. I couldn't wait.
I love how this movie's full of references. Like, they say they go to Cunningham Road. I think that, and it's like in part 4 of Nightmare on Elm Street. There's the Crave Inn. This movie has references to the previous one, which I think is great. But like, they try, and I remember the director tried to put some humor into it. One of my favorite kills is the credit card kill. Because he said he intentionally left that scene to go as long as possible with the credit card, because there was this thing that people would say back in the day. I think it was MasterCard. Their catchphrase was "Don't leave home without it," and he did that on purpose so that somebody in the audience would say, "Don't leave home without it." So he intentionally made that scene long. And it's funny, the person who the girl who gets killed in that scene, that's the director's wife.
Oh.
And Also, another bit of trivia that I love is the ending scene where they're killing Jason. They filmed part of it in a lake, but they only had one night to shoot it, and they didn't get it all shot. So the director asked his parents, who owned a pool, "Could I shoot the end of my movie in your pool?"
Oh, God.
But he didn't tell them that he was going to turn the pool blood red and that there were going to be chunks of things flying around. So the parents were there watching him film the movie. His mother was horrified, but his dad thought it was the greatest thing ever. So
like, I love this shit.
So literally, the end of the movie was shot in a pool.
Oh, God. A bit of trivia, you probably already know this, but have you ever seen any of the James Bond movies? Like, at all?
I've seen some of them. I don't recall them as much. The last ones I recall were the newest ones.
Do you recall at least the opening where James Bond, it's always been a stable?
Oh, yeah, that's another reference from the director.
Yeah.
He did, Jason comes out and, cuts the screen. It does the James Bond fucking shooting thing.
Yeah, that's...
Which I thought was
Back then, when I was little and I watched this movie, I didn't get it. But then when I started watching the James Bond movies, and then I go back to this later as an adult, I see that happen. I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it now.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's a fun little thing they added in. I really like that. It was really cool. This movie is full of references. Like, one kid's reading No Exit. It's just like a perfect thing. And then, of course, I said the thing where the kid said, "So, what'd you want to be when you grew up?" It's just there's so many subtle references in this one, and it's because the director was a big fan of horror stuff, and especially gothic horror stuff. So he tried to add his own flair to it.
Yeah, and
I think it helped the movie. There is some great kills like this, like the face getting crushed. But unfortunately, this was one of the things where the MPAA came in and essentially said you have to cut that scene to make the crush happen very quickly. It happened with a lot of the kills in this movie. But
the kills were more out of it, out of this world now, because Jason's a zombie now. Yeah, he can still use weapons and everything, but fuck you, he's got superhuman strength.
The RV kills were really good. I think he slammed someone's face into the side of it, and you see the imprint.
You do.
And the one dude's listening to Alice Cooper at full volume, so he doesn't notice Jason coming through. Also, this movie has a theme song made by Alice Cooper called "Man Behind the Mask." So
one of my favorites.
It's definitely one of my favorite Alice Cooper songs. It was just funny. I just watched part 4 of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I realized that there's a song that Freddie raps by the Fat Boys. And it's like Robert Englund fucking raps on it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Jason gets Alice Cooper, and Freddie gets to rap. It's so dumb. I love it. But yeah, part 6 is a great movie, especially, and a great bookend to the Tommy trilogy. They basically, Tommy's plan is just to, attach a rock to a chain and attach it to Jason's neck and drown him in the lake to keep him permanently drowned. And that was a cool idea. And the actor was a bouncer who got this role because the bar that he worked for, they did a magic show with hypnosis, and they hypnotized him and told him, "Okay, you're Jason from Friday the 13th." And the producers of the movie happened to be at that bar that night and saw it, and they're like, "This guy knows how to play Jason." So they hired him to be Jason. He wasn't really an actor, and he wasn't really a stuntman, but they hired him because of how well he played it, and eventually he did become a stuntman and whatnot after this movie. But they hired the dude basically because he knew how to play the character in an unconscious state, which is insane. That's how they did it, but that's cool. I think it's a really cool piece of trivia.
Yeah.
The actor though, both actors, both Kane Hodder in part 7 and this guy in this movie, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but they both talked in detail about the underwater stuff, because even though the shot in part 6 is not very long, where he's underwater at the end, they had to spend a ton of time filming that scene. So they would have to film it, and then he would have to signal for someone to bring him air, and they would shoot this scene for hours underwater. So he's underwater, and only time he gets to breathe is when somebody brings a scuba breath thing and lets him breathe. And I think Kane Hodder said it best. He's like, those were the hardest days, because even though all I had to do was stand there and move a little bit, it takes a toll on you when you're just sitting there and taking in breath, and you're you're close to death every moment because you don't know if the person's going to bring you air in time. So, just doing that is exhausting, because it's your body is constantly going into panic. So, but yeah, it was a cool shot. So I'm really glad that they got that. But yeah, I know we're talking about really referential things, but this one doesn't really have that great of characters in it. It doesn't really have that great of kills. It's really about ending the trilogy. So, is there anything in particular you want to talk about with this movie?
Not really. Like I said, it's just you brought Jason back. Boom. There you go. Exactly.
However, I will say, I think we're both in agreement that this movie's pretty good. It's I wouldn't say it's one of the best ones, but it is one of the better ones, and I think it was a good end to the trilogy. But they couldn't stop there, and I think
they never do.
Honestly, this next one is probably the best in the series. It's not my favorite, but it is one that is it's one of the best done ones. Part 7 is fantastic, which is what's the subtitle of this one again? Part 7,
The New Blood.
The New Blood. Yeah. So Part 7 is the first time that Kane Hodder played Jason. And if you don't know who Kane Hodder is, he basically became the regular who played Jason up until Jason X. He was supposed to be in Freddy vs. Jason, but the director decided not to go with him, which is okay. The guy who they got played Jason fine, but Kane Hodder just knew. This is the first time, he played the character, and the character, Jason felt like a character. He wasn't just some guy killing people. And Kane Hodder, still this day, people who like these movies like us, he is Jason. He's if you're going to pick somebody to be Jason, it's Kane Hodder.
He is the definitive Jason. I don't care who you are.
If they ever do another Friday the 13th movie, he has to play Jason. I don't know why they keep snuffing him.
One more time. At least one more time.
Yeah, because he's the best at playing this character. He brings the ferocity and the emotion that Jason's character should have. And I think it's funny that it took to Part 7 for them to do that.
Yeah.
But this movie is really great because it deals with, this one's also got great characters. It deals with the big girl who, actually, I found out recently, she's in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, the Nightmare on Elm Street TV series, which I didn't know, which I recently found out. But what's interesting about her in this movie is she's also kind of a mental case, but she has psychic powers.
Oh, God. Basically freaking Carrie.
And that adds a whole new element to the movie. I think the director of this movie, who is also an effects man who worked on one of the Halloweens, worked on one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, worked on a movie called Prison, and the rest is history.
Funny you should mention A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
On this one, because this was Part 7 was originally supposed to be Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, they tried to do that for years. They tried to make Part 8 that too, but they just couldn't get it. It took them forever. That's the problem with these versus movies. When two different companies own the characters, it takes forever for them to come to an agreement. So Freddy vs. Jason, a lot of people say came out 10 years too late, but I think it was just the one we got was just fine. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But I just wanted to point that out because.
But yeah, just going back to what you said about Carrie, that's what the director of the movie, he said this is Jason versus Carrie essentially. But of course they can't get the rights to Carrie because that's Stephen King. So they just basically made a psychic girl, and it adds a whole new element to the movie. Things start happening. There's a point where she electrocutes Jason with a broken wire on the ground that she moves with her mind. It's nuts. so obviously we have the psychic girl, but she's there with her mom and her doctor, who's an asshole. But the movie starts off with the parents fighting, and she goes out into the lake, and the dad, who's kind of an alcoholic, comes out and says, I'm sorry, come back. And she's like, no, go away. And she uses her that's when she first uses her psychic powers as a little girl to destroy the dock and crush her father under the dock. Not knowing how to, and that's what messed her up. And the doctor is like, let's bring her back to where this all happened so she can face the trauma, so that she can face it, her fears. When secretly the doctor in the end is trying to test things with her psychic abilities, for his own research, which he's a fucking asshole. I hate him. I'm glad he dies. There's a point though in the movie where there's a kill where he uses the mom as a shield and she gets stabbed instead of him. And I'm just like, you fucking asshole. I hope you die wondrously. I think he's the one who gets the weed whacker kill.
Oh yeah, the weed whacker one. But it was just it was so good with it. It was this is one of those times you were cheering for Jason to be
this guy got what was coming to him. And if you watch they have the extended takes on the Blu-ray of where they had to cut. Unfortunately, the footage quality is not that great, so they couldn't restore it and put it back in the movie. But it shows where guts and shit come out, and you hear him scream, and he's like, oh my god! And it's that's what you get, you motherfucker. Anyways, enough about him. The next cabin over from where they're staying, though, is a cabin full of teenagers, and they're having a birthday party for the one bitchy girl, I think it is. And then there's the girl who's she reminds me kind of Irma from the Ninja Turtles. She's the nerdy girl with the glasses. And her friend is the hot trendy girl, and they're both after the same dude. Which I think is funny. But throughout the movie they're fighting for her until, they both get killed. There's the one they meet the one guy who this is the character who's the actual actor is gay, but he had to play the boyfriend basically in this one to the main girl.
Oh yeah.
Which you could tell is kind of awkward because he's I don't really do chicks, but whatever. But yeah, he meets our heroine and invites her over to join the party with everybody else. And that's where the one girl who's the bitchy birthday girl, she doesn't like this girl because she's getting attention from gay football boyfriend man. And so she constantly is messing with her. So she did a joke with one of the other dudes to be wearing a shirt backwards and said, is this how they wear the straight jackets at the mental hospital? And then there's this great effect where you see it zoom on the main girl, and she's doing her psychic ability. She takes the pearl necklace that the girl's wearing and just breaks it apart. And I thought that effect was always really cool. I really like that.
Yeah. And
the funny thing is, that effect is cool, but I think that there's so much more cool stuff in this movie, because when you get an effects person to be the director of your movie, you get results. And I don't care what anybody says. I think Joe Johnston did a fantastic job with Jurassic Park 3, and it's my favorite, and fuck anybody who thinks otherwise. But let's get back to Friday 13th 7. Jason's effects, let's just say, because they said that he was the director was I don't want it to just be a guy in a gray costume, because we've done that a million times. I want there to be damage. And boy, Jason had damage in this movie. You could see parts of his, bones sticking out of him, and he wore the chain around his neck, and he was pissed in this movie. He was fucking pissed. But yeah, and this is where you could see where Kane Hodder was great, because not only did he have to wear a rubber mask that we eventually see, because Jason gets demasked in this movie, and his fucking face stuff is awesome. But he also had the hockey mask on top of that. So Kane Hodder had to act through a lot, and the whole point, and one thing he said is he had to overact a lot of things so it would actually register as coming through the prosthetics on his face. So, like, that scene when the mask gets ripped off his face, and Jason looks at the main girl and kind of, like, gasps. Like, he was, like, widening his mouth as far as it would go so that the prosthetics would read. And Jason looks like... The look in this movie is amazing. Like, I said that he had some damaged look to him on the outside, but his face, holy fuck. Like,
oh yeah.
He looks as angry as he is.
Yeah, especially the mask as well. Just, you could tell the wear and tear and the damage helped a lot.
Oh yeah, and they kept, that's a great thing. They kept with the continuity in this movie.
Because it'd been years upon years since that happened. And you could tell the water damage. You could see well, you've already repeated it too, but I'm doing it as well. You could see the spine from the back. Just
you could see where in part 3 where the axe got put in. Like the attention to detail in this movie is what makes it so great. And of course the characters are great in this one, and of course the element of having a psychic girl, like, it just adds a new element that the franchise really needed, because now that Jason's a zombie, like, what do you do? Like, they kind of got written into a corner, and what they came up with was fantastic. Like, and you see, like, the girl, like, psychic girl throwing shit at Jason and a whole bunch of other stuff. The thing that sucks about this movie is the producer of this movie hated the look of Jason, hated the effects, thought that they were a waste of time and money, and essentially tried to mess with the director as much as possible to intervene and mess up his vision, because she was a bitch. She was a bitch. So I don't know why she did that. One of the effects that's one of the dumbest is when the father comes back up at the end of the movie out of the dock. He was the producer said to the director he's only allowed to have straight makeup. The director made a prosthetic for him where he looked like a zombie. It was finished. They were going to use it, and she's like, no. He's like, what do you mean no? He's like, you're not putting that on him. You can give him straight makeup and that's it. He's like, but I spent money making this prosthetic. He's like, I don't care. She's like, I don't care. You're not using it. I'll pull the rest of the money from the movie if you put that on.
Fuck her.
And like, it was like a really good prosthetic and it would have looked really good. And it's just because this petty bitch happened to be the producer of the film for Paramount. He had to do what she said. So, but he would get his revenge in multiple ways, because he would constantly go against what she said. He'd just be like, I'll shoot it anyways the way I want. And what are they going to do? Cut it from the movie? Like, I'm not going to reshoot it. So he would just refuse to reshoot stuff. So, but then she started showing up on the set and making him do stuff certain ways. So, but anyways, that happened later on in the movie. Let's talk about the kills in this movie. We already talked about the weed whacker. We already talked about, I love how the bitchy girl gets killed. She literally opens the door and fucking gets flung around the room. The sleeping bag kill, which the MPAA said they had to cut to just one whack. But if you watch the Blu-ray extras, it shows the full sleeping bag kill where Jason whacks the girl 7, 8, 9 times against this tree and more blood gets spilled out. It's that one suffered the most, I think, from the MPAA cuts, because it's like they made this effect where Jason it's a sleeping bag. You can't see what's happening. It's just they're just pounding it and it's just full of gallons of blood and a mannequin. And so that's why it keeps showing so much blood every time he whacks it. And Kane Hodder, he's like, that fucking thing was heavy. And I had to do that 6, 7, 8 times. And I was getting angry and I was getting pissed and it was so heavy. And he's like, and then they fucking cut it. He's like, God damn it.
I'd be pissed too. Just oh man, it was worth it. Oh, by the way, it's getting cut. The fuck?
A lot of the things that cut down, like I said, the weed whacker kill they showed blood, they showed a lot more guts and stuff, but the MPAA made them cut all that shit out and just a lot of the kills, you don't even see the kill happening. You just see you just know what happens because it'll cut to a character and they'll scream or something.
Yeah, that's just, no. That's not Friday the 13th. That's just, no.
And unfortunately, because the film for this movie degraded, they still have all the shots, but they're in such low quality that they can't cut them back into the movie. They can't remaster them. So
no. That's the saddest of it all.
That's what's so unfortunate about this, because in the other, like in a lot of the movies, they unfortunately didn't think about preservation too much. They were just concerned about getting the movie made. So a lot of the stock is broken down. So I mean, I'm glad that we do have like dailies that still show the full kills. I just wish there was a way that we could get like regular negatives of it and remaster those into the movie, because I feel like Part 7 needs a director's cut. It sorely does, because I think that's the movie where the MPAA got the most crazy and said, no, you can't show this. No, you can't show this. Like,
yeah.
Like, the director was basically fighting with them on every decision they made, because he's like, you're cutting out all the best parts of my movie. And they're like, well, do you want an X rating or do you want an R rating? And he's like, fine, I'll go with the R rating. Because back then, X ratings, now you can promote a movie and an X rated movie will still get buzz. And if it's good enough, that people will still go see it. But back then, like, if you got an X rating, nobody's going to go see your movie.
At this point, I would have took the bill and was like, you know what? Fuck you. I'll take the X rating. Let's do it. Yeah,
but the movie wouldn't have done as well if they did at that time.
You never know.
But yeah, it's just a shame, but this is still one of the best movies in the series. They blow up the fucking house.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that. And the dad coming back at the end was cool.
Oh, and let's not forget Kane Hodder's 40 seconds of fire.
Yeah, that was the longest burn in film history at that point. And if you notice anybody getting burned in movies, they always fall the same way. That's to indicate, okay, put me out now. They were like, I think I remember the director going, okay, Kane, that's good. You could stop. Kane, you could stop. And he's like, okay, I'm done finally. He's like, oh, okay, put him out. Because fire shots suck. Even though they put protective jelly on you, protective goo, they put protective suits on you, you're still being lit on fire. So... And I already don't like the heat. I don't like a sunny day. So, like, ask me to light on fire, I'd be like, no fucking thank you. First off, I don't like being covered in goop. That shit just grosses me out. But then on top of that, I just don't like being hot. I don't like being on fire. Which a lot of people don't. But Kane Hodder, bless his heart, he's a trooper.
Yeah, I don't mind being warm. I don't like being on fire either, but it's like Kane Hodder's like, Kane, you can stop. I'm going for something.
Kane's just like, well, this is showbiz.
He's like, I don't give a shit. I'm on fire, bitch. Okay, I'm going now. How long did he last? I think 40 seconds.
Yeah, at the time, that was the world record.
Yeah, at the time. I don't know what the world record's for staying on fire.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now, but yeah. There's a few film world records I know, like, what is it? Superhero Tyson has the world record for most actors in suits in a single shot. Yeah. Because it's Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, so they got all those shots. But I just thought, like, when that movie came out, they're like, this is the Guinness Book World Record for most suited actors in a film in one shot, which I thought was crazy. They did this giant crane thing. That was cool. But Part 7, probably the best in the series, I have to say.
Definitely.
Like, it's like, if you were to watch one of the movies, this is the one to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just so well done. And while, again, it's not my favorite, it is one of my favorites, but it's not my absolute favorite. I still have to admit it's the best. It's like, my favorite Power Ranger season is Dino Thunder, but I admit RPM's the best season.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you want to add to our discussion about Part 7?
Not really, because you're right, it is the best in the series, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah. But yeah, Part 7, hard recommend. If it's the only one you watch Part 7. Part 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part 8.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is my favorite.
You know what? For a long time, this was my favorite too, until I saw 5.
Well, 5 I will still be 50-50 on, but at this recording, part 8, always. I don't care. It was the most I've watched out of it. This was my favorite guilty pleasure movie, and it still is to this day. People can say, "Oh, I hated part 8. I hate part 8." I was like, I fucking love it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Part 8 is really, really great, and I do really love it as well. I'm glad that we agree on this one, that it's a great movie, because a lot of people don't, because of it's kind of a lie. The movie's called
pretty much
Jason Takes Manhattan, and they only shot in New York for like 4 or 5 days.
The rest of it's in fucking Canada.
Yeah, they shot the rest of it in Vancouver, because they did the same thing with a Jackie Chan movie where they had to something in the Bronx.
Rumble in the Bronx.
90% of that movie shot in Vancouver, because apparently a slum in Vancouver looks like a slum in New York. I don't know. They're not. The cities don't match at all, but they don't do it that way.
It should have been called Part 8 Jason Takes Canada.
Like, it's funny, like, the people constantly bring up it's called Jason, instead of Jason Takes Manhattan, it's Jason Takes a Cruise Ship, because the first half of the movie takes place on a cruise ship, which is interesting. But so, ending where part 7 was, where Jason was put back into the lake. The part 8 starts with a couple of kids, having sex, and their anchor comes over a power line, and that revives Jason. We should say in the 7th movie, he was revived by the psychic girl, because she thought it was her father, but it was a mistake. But in this one, he's revived by lightning again, second time that's happened. And the characters in the little boathouse there on Crystal Lake happen to have a new mask. So he has a new mask, and I think the mask has the same thing from part 3 in it. So,
oh god, yeah.
Which I don't like. That's a weird piece of continuity, because it's a new mask.
I wouldn't have kept it like that, but it's just like, oh, I want to do something. I want to scare my girlfriend with it. Which, okay, let me go ahead and put in the 3 strikes for these 2 dumb fucks. Part 1. Fucking setting an anchor down. Okay, granted, they didn't know there's a power line under there, but they could have, if they had done it 5 minutes earlier, we wouldn't have a movie. So, good job. Instead of the anchor hitting something that's more concrete, you revive Jason. Great job. Part 2. Having the mask. A little bit of detail right there. Okay, granted, you're like, that's a great attention to detail, but I'm going in my head thinking, where the fuck did you buy this mask from, you sad man? Did you go to a fucking costume shop and it's like, oh, one hockey mask, please? I was like, no, I want the one with the scar on it. I was like, and then the guy's like,
yeah. To be fair, he does talk about the legend of Jason, and he probably knew that he wore a hockey mask, and he probably thought, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna put a little slit in the top of it, which ironically
wasn't even a slit on it. It was hard resin too, and the piece on it is a hard. You could see the glow on it.
Yeah.
So, good job. He was just like, man, one hockey mask, please. In part 3, you basically had the murder weapon. Well, okay, not the fake knife he was using, but there's the fucking. He pulled out the murder weapon technically for them to get killed with. Good job. That's strike 3. You deserve to die.
Yeah. So yeah, they that was they get harpooned, and then cut to Uncle Principal Jackass, and sorry, go ahead.
For the longest time, I was the guy that Charles. He reminded me of somebody.
Yeah,
he played somebody else, and I can never, for the life of me, who.
But anyways, it's graduation for the kids of Crystal Lake High. I don't actually know if that's the high school, but that's what I'm calling it. And their graduation trip is taking a cruise ship. And there's a whole bunch of different people. There's the nerdy video guy who is basically the hot, dumb chick's slave, essentially, who's not going to be able to graduate because she failed a class, or is failing a class. There's the fucking like hair metal chick, which she's my favorite because she had the flying V, which the director still owns to this day with the paint chip or with the blood chip still on it.
Ooh, nice.
There's the fucking like I love how they had a disco in the fucking boat. And the reason for how elaborate the boat was is because the director knew we're only gonna be able to afford to shoot in New York for 6 days. We just can't, we don't have a budget for it. So we're going to make as much cool shit as I can on this cruise ship. So this can be the first half of our movie. And that's kind of why a lot of people are like, oh, it's not Jason Takes Manhattan. He's in a cruise ship for half of the movie. It's
fuck off with that shit.
There's the there's the boxer kid. He was really cool. His death is really fun.
Oh yeah.
They made a thing called the director said, I want a decapicam shot. He's like, and the cinematographer's like, what? He's like, I want a shot from the decapitated head's point of view. They're like, okay. So they bought a Nerf football and put a fucking like disposable camera in it and then just spun it. And that's why you had that 1 second of the world spinning, because they just threw it off a camera and a Nerf football off of a fucking building into a dumpster. That's how they got that shot, which I think is amazing.
I don't know if you knew about this, but one of the victims is Kelly who H-U? I apologize. I knew I was gonna get it wrong sooner or later. We were talking about, how Johnny Depp got his start. He shot up, and as well as Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
So did she.
What else was she in?
The Scorpion King, is Cassandra.
Oh,
X2,
yeah.
X2 is Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Friday the 13th will freaking make you a movie star.
Or at least it'll get you noticed and then to get on to bigger stuff. But
yeah, that's it.
But yeah, the first half of the movie does take place in this cruise ship, and there's a lot of stuff in there, like they have like their own kitchen for Jason to have plenty of knives to cut people up with. I like this part of the movie because it kind of puts people in a like it puts people. It's like the same idea as being at the camp, being isolated away from the rest of society, like at least miles away from society. But this one's like, now you're in the water. Now you're on a boat. You're like miles and miles and miles away from society, and you're trapped on this boat with this invincible killer. And I actually think they did a good job with that. It's just a shame that the movie's called Jason Takes Manhattan, because that's all people focus on is the part when he gets to Manhattan, which is cool, but I think the ship parts are just as good. The main girl has a trauma of swimming, and apparently she met Jason in the lake at some. This is the problem with the Friday the 13th lore. It makes no fucking sense. Like, like you try to be chronological with this, and then like they add something new to like mess up the timeline. So she's traumatized because of water, because of that, and her uncle, principal uncle teacher jackass, threw her in the water to teach her how to swim. How's this guy
Jason's coming to get you. Jason's coming to get you.
How's this guy a teacher? Like, he's the worst teacher of all time. And then like fucking the hot chick tries to seduce him, and the guy tries to get video footage on his VHS camera. He literally caught him on VHS. Thanks, one roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was hilarious. She's like, I call you on VHS, and now they're like blackmailing him so she can pass that course,
which didn't.
I just love how the rocker girl gets beaten in with her fucking flying V, and the screen and like the camera gets like blood on the screen when he does it. It's so cool. Yeah. That's one of the coolest deaths.
I do have a big question. You probably noticed it too.
Okay.
Considering they're on a cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell is this connected to? We've seen Crystal Lake like so many times, and it's looking like it's in Crystal Lake.
Yes, somehow, like it isn't explained, but like because James Rolfe brought this up too when he did his videos on these movies. Apparently, Crystal Lake is just connected to the ocean, which makes no sense, but it is.
It doesn't. No, and you know what? Screw it. I'm pulling the NES Friday the 13th game into this for a moment, okay?
Okay.
Take a look at the map of Crystal Lake. You show me where in that fucking map it connects to the fucking ocean. If you can show me that, I will finally shut my mouth about it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. They like like I know that like the whole reason they did it is because they had to do the boat. So they couldn't fly people. They couldn't put Jason on an airplane, which would have been hilarious. They couldn't fly to New York. It had to be on the fucking boat because they knew they were going to have to spend a lot of time of the movie on there, which, yeah, it makes no sense. But I think they were hoping that people wouldn't think about it. But they got the opposite effect. People thought about it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so somehow this boat connects to the ocean. But I always thought there's probably a drop off somewhere, and that's, but like it wouldn't make sense because they took the lifeboat. Why would they take the lifeboat from the drop off point off into the rest of New York? Like it doesn't make sense. But yeah, it is kind of a plot hole. But let's get to the part that everybody seems to focus on in this movie is when they get to New York, aka Vancouver. There is a few shots that are done in New York. Obviously, the shot of the what do you call that? What's the statue? I always forget the name of it.
Statue of Liberty.
The Statue of Liberty. That shot, yeah, the director and cinematographer were in that little lifeboat with them to get that shot. So that's legitimately, they're in that fucking lifeboat, and if they tipped over the wrong way, the camera would be going in the water.
Oh, God.
But that's how they got that shot. The shot in Times Square, which Kane Hodder said was one of his favorite things to film in the franchise because they would just he would stay in character the whole time, even when they made cuts. So people would walk by him and he would just turn his head and look at them real slowly. And there were people would look at him and he would turn around and stare at them. In costume. Like they're asking, Kane, do you want to get in a costume? He's like, nope, I'm scaring people.
I was like, so, no, I'm Jason, fuck you.
And the funny thing is, even though they filmed those scenes at like 2-3 a.m. in the morning, like people were still out and about because it's New York. The town doesn't, it's like Las Vegas. The town doesn't sleep.
No, it doesn't. No. And I'm going off of a tangent really, but I don't know if you've ever seen Arsenio Hall in any capacity.
I don't think so, no.
There was this one interview, Arsenio Hall did to promote Friday the 13th Part 8. Kane Hodder comes in as Jason, sits down and just, in character, looks at him.
Is that's not the interview they did with Jason on a talk show, is it?
Yes! Yes,
oh, yeah,
it was.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and just fucking Kane Hodder just stayed in character the entire time. God bless him. And didn't even do a thing once. It's just like, you're lucky, motherfucker. You're lucky.
Yeah, I have seen that. I just love when he's trying to ask him interview questions and he just looks at him.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Like, motherfucker, I can't talk.
It's just, I know we're going long on this, but it's the tidbits that makes this.
Yeah.
Shit
this movie has a couple of things that are interesting, like the chase through the subway. I thought was really cool. Obviously the boxer scene. It goes on kind of long, but it's like this guy's deciding, Jason's like, all right, fine, I'll let you try your hand at me. And this guy tries to beat Jason. Actually, he probably could have, if he had a little more stamina, just knocked Jason off the building and that would have been the end of him. But he just runs out of steam and he's punching that mask with his bare fists.
Yeah.
I would have just lifted the mask up and started punching his face, but Jason probably wouldn't allow that. So there's a solid minute of Jason getting punched by this guy. And even though he's like obviously a good boxer, he's getting tired. And when he runs out of stamina, that's when Jason offs him, essentially. Take a cam shot.
Take your best shot, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Wow.
That scene was supposed to take place in what's the big park in
Central Park?
Central Park. That scene was supposed to take part in Central Park. There's also another scene that's supposed to take place on the Brooklyn Bridge, but they just didn't have the budget for it. It's like they had these great ideas. It's just like money. And the thing about it that kind of pisses me off, and I'm like, look, I know you guys are trying to make these movies as cheap as possible, and I know this is the most expensive one at this point, but you guys make millions of dollars. Spend a little money. Like, fuck.
Yeah, this was technically at the time legit for quote unquote realsies, the final Friday the 13th movie, because the sales of it was dwindling down, and they could have just been like, budget, what budget? Let's go.
Like Paramount had to have made like hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion on this film series. Spend a little fucking money. Like,
they didn't want to do it. They
I don't know.
They hated the franchise so much. And
I always hate that when studios are like, they make sequel after sequel and they start to hate the movies that they make. It's like, well, then don't fucking make them anymore. Like,
no, they hated it to begin with, but they knew how popular it was. It was just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And when the sales started dwindling down, the fuck it mentality was no longer there, and they were just like, no, we gotta end this shit now.
But yeah, this movie has one of the most scariest kills. Like, one thing that part 3 of Nightmare on Elm Street has a kill that makes my bones like that goes up my spine, because anything to do with like wrists being cut and stuff like that, or like main arteries and shit, I don't like that shit. I also don't like needles, but that's a whole nother thing. This movie, another thing that is an irrational fear of mine is drowning on dry land. And this movie has a kill where it happens to the right character. The principal teacher, Uncle Douchebag, gets basically, Jason picks him up, finds a barrel of like
toxic
waste, and holds him under it until he drowns.
Oh, yeah.
That kill always sends tingles up my spine, because I'm like, that's like the scariest thing. It's like you're in complete control. You're on dry land, but you're drowning. There's nothing you can do. Like, that always like freaks me out. But it's a great kill because it happens to a character who really deserved it. So
yeah. And going back to the needle kill, where the druggies are trying to basically do that to Rennie.
Yeah.
The main character. This is one of those times you were cheering for Jason at that point. You were just like, yeah, kill this motherfucker, kill him.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite moments of the movie is when Jason kicks the stereo over, which I had that stereo, by the way, that exact stereo. And the guy's like, you did me, slime bag. He takes out his fucking like knife. Jason just turns around, lifts his mask, and the guys run away.
I was like, oh man, it's cool. It's cool.
He doesn't even kill them. He just lifts his mask. So he shows his face to him. That's the thing that sucks about this movie. We don't get to see Jason's face till it's being melted off at the end.
Yeah.
I wish they had done more with it, but I guess they were like, they showed it too much in the last movie, so they're like, we won't show it. People know.
Pretty much. I would have. But it's going back to that, it's just like, oh, you got a knife? Here's my face.
I seen you played knifey facey before. The interesting thing about this movie is we should talk about the ending where Jason basically gets melted by toxic waste.
Oh yeah,
and he melts into being a little kid again, which is very confusing. But I don't know.
Well, apparently, it's Rennie seen a final vision of Jason laying there, so I honestly don't know. That's what I've been going with for a while. So,
but yeah, like this is like, I don't know how they brought him back after this, because like he was melted. There was nothing of him left. He was gone. So
yeah.
They definitely were saying with this movie, this is the end of the franchise. He's not coming back.
Yeah, and you could tell as soon as the last pieces of a mountain, they cut to the shot of the city, like the whole island, lightning strikes, like it's like the evil has finally been vanquished from this earth.
Yeah, it has a very satisfying ending, and it definitely feels like, okay, finally the franchise is over. Like
Jason is
done.
Dead.
Like he can't come back. There's no way to bring him back. He's not a zombie anymore. He's melted away to nothing. So yeah, so and that's, and the thing is just so weird, because we'll get to part 9 in a moment, but it made me question a lot of things because of how it went. But before I jump the gun on that one, I think we're both in agreement. This is one of the best movies in the series, even though,
yeah,
like,
it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
It has problems, obviously, just like part 5 has problems, but I think this one's one of the ones that I always enjoy putting on. Like, it has a lot of charm, and it really, like, I think over time it's become more appreciated, but I remember that a lot of people don't like this one because it's called Jason Takes Manhattan. He's barely in Manhattan. It's like, whatever.
Yeah, this is just more. Every time I finish part 7, I'm always looking forward to part 8. It's like, I don't care what time it is, unless it's like real late in the night and I'm tired. I'm just like, I gotta go to bed. I got stuff to do in the morning. I know when I'm gonna come back, I don't have free time. It's like, part 8 time. Let's go. I'm waiting for it, baby. Come on.
Exactly. So we may have to rapid fire the last 3, but
yeah, I'm gonna rapid fire part. No. I mean, let's have rapid fire part 9 at least, because
first off, it starts off like a typical Friday the 13th movie where Jason's killing someone in the woods, and then no, actually they go into an open field and there's a bunch of people who shoot him, who blow him the fuck up.
Yeah, first question, how is Jason back?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he was burned with acid, and I think this is one of those things where this movie, the canonicity of this movie is odd, because I think at this point they just didn't care about the canon. So, which is hilarious, because this is finally where they tease Freddy versus Jason, but yeah. So the main thing about this is Sean S. Cunningham, who directed the first movie, came back as the producer for this one. And his son was heavily involved in this one. And this is the first movie under New Line, who owns Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street. But that franchise had pretty much finished, because I think New Nightmare was a few years before this, and that was the last one they made or decided they were going to make. And then they bought Paramount sold the license for Friday the 13th, and they bought that. And I think the intention was they wanted to make Freddy versus Jason, but it was that's when the development hell started. This is what this trilogy I call it a trilogy. I include Freddy vs. Jason. This is the we don't know what to do trilogy with Freddy vs. Jason. So they made 2 movies to try to keep Jason relevant while they figured out what they were going to do. Because the thing is, they owned both licenses, so they could do whatever they wanted now to make this movie. But like, Paramount apparently still held some license to the character, even though they sold the movie rights. Like, it's weird legal mumbo jumbo. So this movie essentially was made as a stopgap movie. Same with Jason X, but Jason X I actually like a lot more than this one. Part 9's weird.
God almighty, part 9, yeah. Especially with one of the main characters is like, you're gonna go out the woods, do some pot, have premarital sex. I'm like, you're making fun of yourselves now, aren't you?
Oh yeah, they were definitely taking the shit with this movie.
Yeah, but they would do the same thing with Jason X too. Let's be honest.
What I will say is cool is this is the first time the movie is centered around the Voorhees family, which is something that the family has always been ingrained in stuff like Halloween, but this is the first time where they actually ingrain here. I think that's cool. I think the guy Duke or whatever his name is, the hunter guy, he's really cool. But the majority of this movie it's not very good.
No, it's like they could have. Now I'm trying to remember his name, Duke or Creighton Duke.
Creighton Duke, yeah,
Creighton Duke, and he's just like he knows the lore of Jason. It's like, oh, everybody saying, "Oh, Jason's dead. Jason's finally dead." And Creighton just like, "Nope, motherfucker ain't dead. What are you talking about?"
I love how like he does the interview with the guy and he's like, I'm going to say something. You tell me what first thing comes to your mind. Jason Voorhees. I think of a little girl in a cute pink dress putting a hot dog through a donut. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is the first Friday the 13th movie I owned, by the way. I think it's just called Jason Goes to Hell. Subtitled Friday Part 9.
Funny enough, this was the first. When I heard about Jason X, I finally was a little older enough to get to watch Friday, Jason Goes to Hell, and as I watched through this movie, I'm going, this is dumb.
It's not even like Part 5 is so dumb it's good, but this one's so dumb it's just bad. Like,
yeah, especially how they. You know what? I don't even care. Do you mind if I spoil a little bit of this movie of how?
Well, we're beating around the bush. Essentially, Jason is a shapeshifter in this one. He moves from body to body.
He's going body to body fuck it. He's trying to get into a Voorhees.
So he can be revived, which I don't understand that, but that's what happens. So eventually he crawls up the vagina of his sister or something.
Yeah, I could make 20 incest jokes right there, but I'm not.
So how he moves on from body to body is when he's first being dissected, like the parts of him that are left. The heart, I guess, does this thing where it attracts the person to eat it, and for some reason, eating Jason's heart moves him over to a new body.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like,
no, it doesn't.
Like, out of all the movies, this is the one that I say don't even bother with. Like,
no, but I'll still watch it, but it's just like, I know I'm gonna have to go through it. This
is the one that, like, I'll watch it from time to time, but if I'm doing a marathon, this is the one that I'm either like, well, this is the one I'm gonna play a game at the same time while I watch it, or I just skip it because I'm like, honestly, nothing in this movie matters in the end except for the very, very ending. That's all we care about, which is where Freddy comes up and takes the mask and takes Jason to hell. I know we're not saying much about this movie. Like, there's some great characters, like the girl who's the lady who's the owner of the diner. She has a great a line that says, "Don't you touch that fucking ray of sunshine."
You're not gonna touch that ray of fucking sunshine.
But like, it's just like, and you can tell she's cheap because they make the Jason burger where they cut out the holes for the mask and everything, and they're like, you can make a whole new burger with all those holes you cut out. And it's like I like characters like that, but honestly, the entire movie is just a fucking slog, and it's just like, it's not good. It's not entertaining. Like, the whole, I came to Friday the 13th to watch Jason kill people, and yes, Jason definitely kills people, but now he's a bunch of other actors, and I feel like Kane Hodder got snubbed in this one, even though he makes a cameo. Early.
Yeah, and he gets killed. But here's the thing, it's like New Line got this slightly used toy from Paramount. They've been wanting it for a while, and then they just crush it and crush it and crush it and crush it.
I don't want to blame New Lines completely. I feel like what they did, the mistake they made was putting the Cunninghams in charge of it again. Because the thing to remember is, unlike Nightmare on Elm Street, where Wes Craven was at least involved in 1, 3, and 7, he was involved in a bunch of them, even though he didn't continue to pay attention to it. And John Carpenter was involved in the first 2 Halloweens. The Cunninghams weren't involved in these movies except from the first one. And I think the idea that Sean had is he wanted to act like some of them didn't exist, and that's why, like, he wasn't up to date on the lore of the franchise after it got away from him. So, and I think he just didn't care about Jason. He's like, Jason was a gag at the end of the movie. So, so like, the idea they had is let's do something different with it, which is fine. Do something different, but like, the problem is they tried to change the lore instead of taking the lore from the previous movies, and I think that's what hurt it, because now they're like, the Voorheeses are a big part of it, and they probably saw other slashers who were doing these big family things like Halloween and whatnot at the time and thought, we can do that. But like, in part 9, like, really?
No, you could have. You could have. What they could have done, the Cunninghams, well, at least Sean could have done, was like, watch 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Try to get an idea, and then instead of just one movie, you could have had maybe 2 or 3 movies to span this out of how did Jason come back after he got acid to death.
Well, fuck. Okay? The only thing he really had to do was watch the 8th movie. Like,
yeah, they just watch the 8th movie and just been like, oh, that's okay. Here's what we do. Boom, 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 boom.
But I think also they were trying to make a pseudo reboot out of it, because it kind of felt like they wanted to attach a lore to it, but they didn't want to like continue the previous lore. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like they were trying to do it.
They were trying to Halloween this shit.
I think so, and I think the other thing too is that I think New Line understood that, you know, Friday the 13th is a big franchise, but they didn't understand that the guy who made the first one hadn't been around since the first one. So, yeah. And this is the 9th one, and I think they made a poor decision doing that. But to be fair, the other thing too is this was supposed to be a stopgap movie. That's why they didn't call it Friday Part 9, because I think they knew when they were making it, they're like, we can't call this Friday the 13th Part 9. People won't like it. So let's just call it Jason Goes to Hell. And
Final Friday. But they actually had the tagline on the bottom, the Final Friday.
Yeah. So they were like, let's just make one more, and then we'll do Freddy vs. Jason. Spoilers, they didn't have it done in time to do Freddy vs. Jason.
No.
So honestly, Part 9, I have nothing more to say about it. It's not good. Mm-hmm. You can skip this one.
Yeah, I'll still watch it, but in terms of, I'm going to watch something on YouTube. I wonder what Bray Still Plays is doing. Maybe he's got more adventures of Florida Man with his natty light.
This might sound controversial, but I love Jason X.
Oh God, Jason X, yes!
It's, you know what? It's campy, like 5, like 8, like it's got that same quality, and maybe that's why I really like it. But honestly, they just made Jason X because of the problem of they didn't have Freddy vs. Jason ready. So what do? They're like, what can we do with Jason? Well, what's the final frontier? Space. So they're like, Jason in space. And they're like, I don't know how we're going to get Jason in space. And not just Jason in space, Jason in future space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially, what happens is the pharmaceutical companies decide they want to keep Jason alive because he has this regenerative ability, and they want to find out how to make it. So they freeze him. It cryogenically freeze him to preserve him until they try to figure this out. They apparently never figured it out, and all the people died, and apparently the Earth is like a desolate planet or something. So, so some kids from a intergalactic high school go on a field trip
to Earth 1.
To Earth 1 is what they call it, and they find Jason's corpse. And I love that, like, Jason chops the guy's arm off while he's frozen.
Yes, and it's like, well, there went your arm, and then all of a sudden you see it. Also, they do something to it, and then later you see it reattached to him. Like, come on!
Also,
really?
we forgot to mention that the main girl is actually originally from the original timeline in 2000, but she gets brought back to this timeline of 2400 and something, I think it is.
I'm actually going to look now. I don't know why, but
I can't remember if she got frozen too.
If I remember correctly, while I'm looking, it's 2455. Yeah, it's 2455.
Yeah, I can't remember how she gets brought back.
Oh, she gets brought back by the nanobots, those same ones that reattach the guy's arm, because she got stabbed by Jason while Jason was getting frozen through the door.
Oh, right.
And, yeah, which, by the way, you have to have the flimsiest fucking door for his machete to go through when you're cryogenically freezing.
And they froze the whole room, right?
Yeah, they froze the whole damn room out of the whole thing. It's just like, okay, we're going with this shit.
Yeah. I love little things like the teacher in this one is weird. He likes having his nipples twisted.
You pass!
And then there's like, what I love is as the moment they bring Jason on the ship, and the moment that somebody's having sex, Jason just gets right up. He's like, someone's fucking.
He's just like, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
my fuck senses are tingling.
Yeah, the music cue was perfect.
That's Jason's version of spider sense.
This movie also has one of the best kills, which is the dry ice kill.
Oh yes!
The girl's head goes into dry ice, freezes, and then he smashes her fucking face on the side. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, you did the best one early. The best kill out of that whole entire movie early.
It was one of the first kills, too. The video game kill's kind of cool, too, because Jason gets to kill them twice.
Yeah, as soon as he kills them the first time, stimulation turns off. He probably, if he was able to think, probably looks around going, wait, I thought I just killed you. Wait a minute.
Also, this movie, like Aliens, has Alien has like a guy who's basically a fucking like. They treat like a person who drives a spaceship like a fucking trucker. Which I love. Yeah. His death is funny too. And then of course they start going throughout the place to try to find Jason because now they know that he's on there. And I love that they literally call the BFG a BFG. They're like, "You got the BFG?" Yep, I got the big fucking gun. Yeah. But eventually, Android Girl, who has nipples that fall off,
KM14,
she becomes a battle robot and basically shoots the fuck out of Jason and essentially kills him. But
yeah, so movie over.
But she kills him on nanobots.
Oh god!
And then the nanobots come together and revive Jason to make Uber Jason, or I just call him Jason X at that point.
And the comics would too, to be honest. There's a comic called you probably heard of it too. It's Friday the 13th, Jason versus Jason X.
Oh no, I haven't heard of that. I gotta check.
There is a comic called Friday the 13th, Jason versus Jason X. I've never read it. I want to read it, and I heard it was so fucking dumb.
There's also the comic for Freddy versus Jason versus Ash or whatever.
I actually did see bits and pieces of it, and I was actually enthralled by it, so...
I gotta check that out, too. But yeah. I honestly, a lot of people say this is the part where the movie jumps the shark, but I love Jason X. I think he's cool.
I'm gonna be honest, if you think this movie jumped the shark, you haven't seen part 7. You haven't seen part 8, okay?
But like, I just love that Jason comes back and now he's powered up. It's like, because that's the thing I think about. Like, you've got Jason in future space, but like he's going to be out of his element. They're going to have ways to deal with him at this point. So when he gets revived with the nanobots and basically gets like the metal mask and everything, I thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah, and it just, when you see his eyes, you're just like, they repaired everything about Jason. I'm talking every little thing. Well, except brains, but to be honest, you can't repair those. But this is basically his upgrade, his Super Saiyan, technically.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, if they did another like movie where, like, if they brought Tommy back, I would like them somehow to bring this Jason back from the future back in time and have Tommy fight Jason X, not regular Jason. I want to see more Jason X. I don't think it's right that he's just exclusive to this movie.
Oh my god, I just thought of this too. If they did it, do that, but still have like it being after Friday the 13th Part 6, where Tommy, it's already done fighting Jason. It's like 2 weeks later or something, and and all of a sudden there's this disturbance. Tommy hears, "Oh, Jason's back!" All of a sudden, he's like, "No, it can't be. It's impossible." And then when he goes, that's when he finds out, "Oh shit, this is Jason X." But like somehow, because of the two Jasons now, the original Jason senses it, somehow gets out of the water, and boom, this is how you get Jason versus Jason X.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I hope they find some way. Though since the remake, the franchise has been kind of quiet.
Dead.
So, like, I don't know. Apparently they're working on another one, but it's in development hell, so who knows. I just want this franchise to come back, but
I know.
we'll get to the remake eventually.
Yeah.
I don't really have much more to say about Jason X. It's a really great movie. Like, a lot of people probably think, like, ugh, it's the 10th Friday the 13th, but it's actually, like, the later ones are actually pretty damn good. Like they, giving them time, like, except for 9, but giving them time did wonders for Jason.
Yeah. Then I will admit, another guilty pleasure movie. If there had to be a number 2, it would be Jason X. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's a great. I could still throw it on and enjoy it. It's one of the more fun ones too, which I like. They definitely got the fun aspect of it. This is like, I think they learned their lessons with Part 9 and like tried to make just a fun movie while they tied people over till Freddy vs. Jason. Speaking of which, Freddy vs. Jason finally happened.
Yeah.
After like 10, 15 years of trying to make it happen. And we won't go too long into it because this is mostly talking about Freddy and Jason, but essentially, for those of you who don't know the Nightmare on Elm Street series, like one of the easiest ways to kill Freddy is to just remove his power, like forget about him. So essentially, this movie is about Freddy reviving Jason to get the people to think and kill people on Elm Street to think it's him, so that he gets brought back and he gets his power back. They tried to make this movie. They tried to make the powers and the lore from both movies work, but there is some inconsistencies. But it doesn't matter. The whole reason we're here to watch Freddy vs. Jason is to watch Freddy fight Jason.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which is great. You've got they do have a few fights. The Dream World fight is definitely the one where Freddy has the advantage, obviously, because that's where he fights. And then they go in the real world, and Jason's just stronger, but Freddy still puts up a decent fight, and it's just really cool. I just really like this. I love how like Freddy's more nimble, so he's doing like karate moves and shit on fucking Jason, like elbow drops.
Oh yeah, it's like now we go back into my element of wrestling because that's what Freddy's basically trying to do.
Yeah,
he's like the cruiserweight against a super heavyweight.
I think one of my favorite lines is when Freddy's like, "Hey, asshole!" Jason turns around, he throws a bunch of like metal rods at him. The original line was supposed to be, "Hey, mama's boy."
Oh yeah,
they just changed to "Hey, asshole."
Funny enough, my favorite line out of the whole thing is not even in the main movie. It was a cut scene where, okay, the original one had Freddy kick Jason in the balls, and the next thing you're seeing Freddy go, "Oh!" and getting thrown and shit. They extended it a little bit with Freddy kicking Jason in the balls, and he's just like going, "Oh!" Leans into Jason's like, "Got the balls, ain't ya?"
I love Robert Englund. He's fucking good. I'm glad that they kept him as Freddy for so long, because like if it was some actor from if they'd made the Nightmare remake before this, they would have probably gotten that actor and it would have been as fun. Like,
oh, Jackie Earl Haley. Ugh.
Like, he's a good actor, but it was not a good movie.
Good Rorschach. Horrible Freddy.
But yeah, like Robert Englund hams it the fuck up in this, because when you've got two monsters like this, like two slasher villains, and one doesn't talk and the other one doesn't shut the fuck up, you've got to make his I don't want to spoil a ton about, because this movie is definitely one that you gotta see. Like, it's the Godzilla versus King Kong of our generation.
Yeah, and the ending technically is sort of like that.
Mm-hmm.
That people are still arguing to this day who won.
They wanted to make a second one with Ash, but it never happened, so they made a comic instead. I need to read the comic because apparently it deals with characters from both franchises, like both
It
Freddy and
does.
Jason, and goes in the lore, so I gotta read it. But Freddy vs. Jason, like, I don't want to say much more about it. I just want to say go watch it.
Yeah, go watch it, boy.
I don't.
We can't do it enough justice.
Yeah,
go watch it. I guess the one movie we gotta talk about now is the one I'm kind of dreading a little bit.
Yeah, the last one on our docket here, as our podcast gets almost 2.5 hours, is the remake of Friday the 13th, which a lot of people don't like. I thought it wasn't too bad. Personally, it is the most forgettable one, though, I'll say, because I don't remember much about it, other than they basically tried to redo parts 1, 2, and 3 in one film. What I will say is, to start off with a negative, this movie's opening scene is too fucking long. Like it's like 15 fucking minutes, and it doesn't get to the point. It's like, Jesus Christ, get to the movie already.
Yeah, I mean, you basically had, when we started, the ending of part 1, and then you're halfway into part 2, and then somehow you added a new movie into it that has Willa Ford in it. Yeah. Singer, one hit wonder Willa Ford? I can't remember.
Well, the what I'm talking about is the opening scene with the kids at the campfire. That scene, up until like it cuts to like Jason killing them, it takes way too long to get to that. Like it's that's the opening of the film. Like it's like the first movie, they killed a character right away. So like it's like, fuck. It's just so goddamn long. They should have cut that down. The how he gets his mask is kind of dumb in this one too.
Oh yeah,
A guy just has it because he's a fucking weirdo, so he steals it.
It's just like, oh hey, mask here, boom. He doesn't even lose the bag like he did in part 2. He just like looks at the mask and he's like, "What this?"
What I will say about this movie, what I do like, is that I like that it establishes more about Jason being a mama's boy, and that he basically kidnaps that one girl because he thinks it's his mom or something like that, because it looks like his mom. I like the scenes where they have to be stealthy around Jason when they're in that open area with all the like huts and the logs and stuff, where they're like, shh, they're like, don't wake daddy, essentially, and they're watching him. Like, that's cool. There's a character in this movie who's a jackass and doesn't die as gruesomely as he should have. There's a character in this movie with my name.
And Willa Ford.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's like, that's one of the few things I actually remembered about this movie. Willa fucking Ford.
The stunt for the Asian guy who gets killed, he had an injury.
Okay, I'm actually remembering this. This was the only Friday the 13th movie I ever got to see in theaters, too. So, that just like, that's sad when you remember Jason's a mama's boy and Willa Ford, and her breasts are out. Yeah, I could see that in Playboy. Okay, thank you. But her kill was just like,
yeah.
I was like, not enough.
I think what I was trying to say before is the Asian actor, he actually got injured with his kill scene, but he didn't want to stop filming, so they kept it going, and then eventually had to go to the hospital, I think.
Aaron Yu?
I think so.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he got injured, and I don't think the film crew fully knew because he was trying to hide it, because he's like, no, let's keep doing it. And then eventually he's like, okay, I need to go to a hospital.
So, what happened? I'm actually injured. Why didn't you tell us?
Because I didn't want to ruin the shot. But
props to him.
The other thing I don't like is the chase when he chases the one guy and they're all sitting in the house. They're like, we gotta help him. No, just watch. I'm like, that takes too long. And it's like, I like it better when Jason just kills people on his own. Like, they split up and then he kills them. This is like, all the characters know what's happening. Jason just kills a guy. Like, I don't think this one is nearly as bad as everybody says, but it's like, it's one of those ones where it's like, I don't think the people who made the movie got the formula of the franchise. I think they were just, but I also think that they realize that some of those things might not work today. But then I'm just like, then just make a movie for the fans, because like those are the people who are going to buy tickets to see this movie. The general film audience no longer cares about Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
They haven't for years. So make a movie for the fans. And I know that people say, well, fans don't make box office bucks. But you know what doesn't also make box office bucks? Making a bad horror movie.
Yeah.
And this one's also skippable, I gotta say. Like, I don't have much
Sadly, yes. The ending to it of how Jason dies is just like typical Michael. Okay, all right. I know it's directed by somebody else. I've always said that. It's like, but Michael Bay still had a hand in it, man. That's just invincible, man.
I just remembered when he chases one of the girls to the lake. That scene's really good. Like, it shows, like, there's always this misconception. There's two misconceptions: that Jason uses a chainsaw as his primary weapon, and that Jason walks slowly. And yes, he does chase people slowly in a lot of the movies, but he runs a lot of the time too. So, like, in this movie, you see him fucking run, like, chase people down. I thought that was really cool. I think he appears under the dock at one point and tries to kill somebody as well.
Yeah.
But in any case, I don't know if you have anything more to say. This one's kind of passive.
Not really. I'd watch it, but it's just like, we're at the
I
end.
didn't hate it when I watched it on DVD for that. I bought it on DVD when it was in a bargain bin, and I forgot I had it for like a year, and then I decided to watch it one night, and I was like, that was okay, but it's kind of too modern horror movie to be good, in my opinion.
Well, like I said, this was the only Friday the 13th movie I got to see in theaters, and funny enough, it was on Valentine's Day. Funny, but here's the thing. I got this. We went into the theater on Friday the 13th, but we saw it right at midnight on Saturday, February 14th. Nothing says loving like Jason slicing somebody, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
and I was with a date, surprisingly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Did that work out in your favor?
Nope.
But yeah, I would like to talk about the game and stuff, but we just don't have time right now.
Actually, I can give you a short synopsis of the game. It's just a online multiplayer kind of game.
Yeah,
where
it's a lot like well, I'll say real quick, it's a lot like Dead by Daylight, but like it has a lot less of shit you gotta do when you're a survivor. It's also a lot more fun to play as Jason in that game. What I will say about that game is, like, the game, because the game exists, Jason will never be in Dead by Daylight, which would be great because you have Freddy, you have Michael Myers, I think Leatherface is in that game, but Jason's the only one that's not there. So, like,
you never know. Things may change now.
Like, because unfortunately, the Cunninghams have the license again. But I will say that we wouldn't have the game if it wasn't for Sean, because he's the one who got the licensing all put together. But at the end of the day, I think they lost the licensing partway through because the game had to be rushed to be done.
Yeah.
And it's still a fun game. I still love streaming it. And you know what? I might stream it on Halloween because Halloween's my stream night.
I was actually going to say it is kind of funny, isn't it? He pretty much gave the license to them and took it away.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The game's still around. You can still play it. It has been ported now to Switch, which means that something is happening with the license. There's new games coming out. There's like a strategy game.
There's a mobile game, puzzle mobile game for it, surprisingly. Yeah. So there's something being done with the franchise still.
I partially think that the games are trying to bring up interest to hopefully get another movie, but and what I will say about the game is I like the breadth of content. You can play as multiple different Jasons. You can play as different actual characters from the movies, as well as new characters, which is great. I think the game itself, the critics hated it, and a lot of people say it's like a poor man's Dead by Daylight, but even so, if you're a fan of Friday the 13th, it's a great game. It's a fun game too, so definitely go check it out. But honestly, I don't think we have much more to say except I love this franchise. Like, and I hope we get another movie. I know because the next one will be the 13th movie technically in the franchise. We didn't talk about the TV show because it has nothing to do with the movies. So,
no, actually, Sean's not my hate for this. Victor Miller.
Which one's he again?
He was the one who wrote the original Friday the 13th screenplay. That Horror Inc. did this and that. So, yeah, just forget what I just said about Sean. Actually, just replace his name with Victor.
Okay. I'll try to somehow in editing. But
it's like, all right, Victor Miller.
But yeah, so that's basically our thoughts on the franchise. It's great. My personal favorites are 5, 7, 8, and X, and of course Freddy vs. Jason. Your personal favorites?
3, 8, and Jason X.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I will never get tired of this franchise. I probably will introduce it if I ever have children one day when they're a little older. I'm going to introduce this.
I was gonna say,
I'll probably be my luck. They'll pull me when I'm young, find the movies, and when I'm not looking, and start watching them. I'm just hoping and praying to God they have more. They've got about as common sense as I did. As like movies is not real life.
We grew up with stuff like Mortal Kombat, right? So
yeah. So hopefully the next generation will not imitate it.
The main thing is I think the problem with violence from the violent movies and games is kids aren't explained it. Their parent, a parent needs to sit down and explain to their kids what this means. It's not real, You wouldn't want to do these things in real life and stuff like that. And I think that gets missed. That's why we have a lot of kids growing up who are, that's why I don't want to make this political. I'm going too far.
Yeah, let's not. We're going too far. This is a Friday the 13th, not Oni and Zero talk politics. Anyways, I don't even like politics.
Before we finish this podcast, this is the part of the podcast where we talk about stuff that we're working on. Oni, what are you working on? What do you got going on?
Funny enough, I'm actually going to start streaming a little more with more of the wrestling commentaries, and tomorrow night, if it's cool with Zero at the time of this recording, a co-stream for Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2.
Yeah, we could probably do that.
Yeah, because hopefully I can get enough footage to actually. Because I was going to be doing Arcade Room on Zone of the Enders, and then Gundam came out. Yeah. Oh, I'm still going to do it on Zone of the Enders. That's going to be on the back burner now until I can get my hands on Gundam.
Yeah, I just downloaded this Gundam game. And, I mean, we're recording this podcast on the 9th, but this is probably not going to come out for a few weeks because of October and stuff. Plus, I have another podcast I'm doing about Promare, which is probably going to come out first.
That's funny.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm going to be streaming that Gundam game with you, and probably do that. You'll probably be able to see the VOD on my channel, so go check that out, I guess.
Yeah. And
of course, you're doing your wrestling streams, and then is there anything else you're streaming right now, or is that about it?
That's pretty much it because of the wrestling commentaries. I'm not able, with my hectic schedule, I'm not able to stream as weekly as I used to. But unless something changes, I'm going to try to do weekly again. Keyword try.
Now, we got to talk about something before we go any further.
Oh, Lordy.
You decide to make a declaration, as you normally do, on Twitter about getting a certain amount of retweets on a tweet that you would play the Five Nights at Freddy's games on Halloween.
Yeah, here's the reason why, is because this is fueling because of wrestling. I'm sorry, I know I'm trying not to, but this is the reason why. I'm trying not to make this long-winded explanation. Crown Jewel is a WWE pay-per-view that's being held in Saudi Arabia. And I'm not going to go too much into that. Let's just say since last year's Crown Jewel, I have made it a vow to not watch anything from Saudi Arabia. And the last time they did something like this with Super Showdown earlier this year, I did an alternative stream to it. And there's a good bit of people that watched my stream. It was on Prey. And considering it's going to be on Halloween night, technically, I am if my tweet gets to 2,000 retweets, I'm not counting likes. Likes does not count on this. 2,000 retweets. Because I've already said something about if it got to 20,000 bits by Pure Fortune, I would do the entire series. I excluded Sister Location. But because of Crown Jewel, if that gets to 2,000 retweets, I will play the entire franchise up to Night 5, including Sister Location. Because I would rather play the games of the devil I do know than the devil I don't know by subjugating myself to a shitty pay-per-view.
So this podcast is probably going to go out before Halloween night. Like, it's probably going to be, like, I don't know, a week or so before. I don't know what the scheduling is going to be like. I'll have a link to the tweet down in the description if you guys want to retweet it.
Yeah.
I haven't gone to the extent yet, Oni, of pulling in people I know who have large followings on Twitter, but I might.
If that happens, I'll try and figure out something. I'll figure out a way to get up enough money to buy the rest of the franchise.
Oh, dude, I'll just buy you the games. I don't care.
Okay, then.
They're not expensive. But yeah, like, if you want to see this happen, find that tweet, #Oni for Night 5.
And if it does not get to 2K retweets by Halloween night, the alternative one will either be Gundam Battle Operation 2 or just to keep up with the horror. That Blair Witch game you've been playing?
Brad's a big fan of Blair Witch. I don't know anything about it, so he's mostly playing it.
I'm going to stream that.
It's a pretty good game, though.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be Halloween night. I'll just transition on to me, I guess. Now is I'll probably be playing that Friday the 13th game. So who knows?
I'll join you for it then.
Maybe you'll join me for it. We'll see what happens.
Here's the thing. My stream will probably be around the same time Crown Jewel's happening, so it won't be at night. Probably be on Halloween day. So there you go.
Gotcha. Okay, but I guess we'll talk about what I'm working on. Because this video is coming out a little later, some stuff might already be out. But I did some more writing on my Halloween review. Yes, I'm only in the writing phase for my Halloween review. This is why I'm only doing one this year, if even this. But I'm gonna Thanksgiving weekend's coming up, and because in Canada Thanksgiving is the second Monday of October. Don't ask questions. That's just how it is. So I have a 3-day weekend coming up. I'm going to be working on a bunch of stuff. Hopefully get a good chunk more of my Halloween review done. And then I can start doing the voiceovers and editing and stuff. So that's being worked on. It might already be out by the time you guys see this podcast. I don't know what order I'm going to do this stuff in, but that's what I'm working on. I also have another video written completely, and I have the footage recorded for Remembrance Day. It wasn't originally supposed to come out on Remembrance Day, but it happens to fit the theme, and because of my Halloween review, I've had to push it back from when I originally intended to release it. So it was a game that I was given a review code as well. So it is a game that I was, full disclosure, I was given for free, but I am still going to write what I feel, because if my Furwind review was any indication, even if somebody gives me a code for a game, I'm still going to be real about it. But yeah, so that's what I've got coming on. Of course, continuing on with the monthly album review, I just released the Post Malone one last month on Hollywood's Bleeding. I have a new one that I'm going to film soon. Again, this is the 9th, so it's probably already filmed. It might already be out. I also am going to... I've got more Massacre Month going on. By the time you see this, there'll probably be a bunch of Massacre Month videos out. That's where I do Terror Time videos for all the month with my buddy Brad. As well as 60-Bit Winter is about to start. So for those of you who don't know what that is, every November to March, from the start of November to the end of March, we do, it's an event where I host where we play 16-bit games for winter. If you'd like to join in on that, there will be a link in the description of this video as well as other videos on how you can sign up for that. I already have one Let's Play with Kirby set up that we're going to do, and I have a solo one I've thought of.
I probably might do it. I don't know yet. Depends.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done, what is it, 16-bit winner?
Yeah. Yeah, so I do streams and Let's Plays for that, so...
I was going to say, already did it for X, and considering if I did it, it would be cheating a little bit.
No, not really. I don't care. You can do it if you want.
Well, no, it'd be cheating because I'd be doing it from the Xbox One.
Whatever. I don't care. It's still, the ports count as long as it's still the original game somehow.
Okay.
But yeah, like one of the games I thought of doing was the Switch port of the Ninja Warriors, which is a upscaled and cleaned version of the Super Nintendo game. That's one I've considered. But yeah, so that's going on. If you want to join that, guys, there'll be information in a link in the description. Otherwise, that's what I have going on. Let's end this podcast. Oni, where can people find you?
Twitter.com/OniRukaku, YouTube.com/OniRukaku, Twitch.tv/OniRukaku.
All right. Short and sweet. There we go. That's where you can find him. And you can also see Oni on my streams because he shows up a lot of the time. He's like a regular.
And I make myself look like a fucking idiot.
How many marks are on the wrestle jar?
Too many.
Okay. And you guys know where to find me. You can follow me on Facebook, Zeromaster fan page. Follow me on Twitter at Zeromaster. I stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesday and Thursday, 8:30 at twitch.tv/Zeromaster. If you guys want to support this podcast and other projects, get early access, get behind the scenes extras, and a whole lot more, consider backing on Patreon for as little as $1 Canadian, which is like 70 to 80 cents American. You can get access to a lot of stuff that I just mentioned, and you'd be supporting the channel and get your name probably here on the screen. Or at the end screen, I guess, for the podcast. If you want to save money on games, and support me at the same time, I usually have an Indie Gala affiliate link down there where you can get bundles of games, much like Humble Bundle, get a bunch of Steam games, play them, have a good time. This is a good time, and support me at the same time. If you want to support me, but you don't have money, you can use the Brave browser by using my affiliate link. The Brave browser is my web browser of choice. It's by the original coders for Mozilla, which is the people who made Firefox. It protects your data. It has built-in ad block. It has built-in safe torrent downloading, and on top of that, you get free of their e-tokens every month that you can give to support your favorite content creators and websites. So use the link in the description or the link that you see on screen if you're watching the video version to get Brave. That's going to be it for us. Oni, thanks again for coming on and discussing this great film franchise with me.
Anytime. I mean, I love Friday the 13th. I'll talk about it all day if I could.
Yeah, like, I have a feeling if we ever do like a kaiju podcast, I probably have to have you and Doom on because I feel like that would be a fun one.
Yeah.
I still want to do the Gundam 4-way with Yuji Kato and CJ at some point. I think that would be a fun one too.
Hey, whenever you're ready, I mean,
I'll just be like, here. I'm here because I don't know much about Gundam. I know enough to be dangerous, but yeah. But yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching. For the Hunter Base Podcast, I'm Zeromaster.
I'm Oni.
And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Later.